Welcome in, everyone, to another Hawk's Eye podcast. I'm your host, Bryce Coutts, and today I've got my good friend Brandon Cain from the Hawks Nest, part of the Seahawks Syndicate, joining me today. We're going to go over a bunch of different draft stuff. We're going to get into a couple mock drafts. We're going to take your guys' questions, and we're going to bring you some of our favorite Seahawk fits from this draft class. But Brandon, how are you doing first overall, man?
Doing great, man. The championship afterglow never ends, at least throughout an offseason. And it's been fun pivoting now as you're starting to get into draft coverage, as it just gives you this chance to do different things as you cover the football. You know, you get the chance to cover free agency and the draft and just different eyes, different looks for sometimes the film study we do and trying to dive into the schematics or the matchups and all of that, which really gets micro. So it's a lot of fun being in this area of things.
So for you, Brandon, how has it been getting caught up on this draft class? Obviously, we've gone a lot farther this year into the playoffs. We won a Super Bowl, so that time frame gets a little shortened. We almost have the draft here. It's, here in 5 weeks or less. How's your draft process been now that it's gotten kind of pushed back a little bit, maybe?
It's a little behind on where I would normally be, to be quite honest with you. I like to get to about 320. That's about the number I've found, that if I get to that, that's where I can't go any further. Like I literally just eyes start to cross like this as I'm watching film when it's back to back. But I'm not that point, but I am definitely behind and scrambling a bit. I'm still nudging up around, I'm not even crossing 200 prospects at this point, I'm definitely a little bit behind. I might have a couple guys I think I saw on your list that I've still yet to quite get into myself. So I'm trying to, roll through them. I think as well, the concentration from my standpoint has been a little bit more this year on trying to stay towards the top guys at the height of the draft, not just because we're minus a 4th and 5th round pick, partially, but also because of the fact that I just want to try to understand these guys a little bit better as well, because this is a given draft where the top guys aren't as clear and there's more variance. And so you're really harder to kind of really, I don't know if you feel the same way, but it's harder to feel is true, especially when it comes to the evaluation of this guy's got special elements. This guy can do something a little extra to allow him to be a top end first round pick or a middle first round pick, let's say, or even a back end first round pick.
Yeah, exactly. And that was something I even felt while we were down in Mobile there covering Senior Bowl for that week. It wasn't like there were a bunch of massive standouts like there have been in the past, where we're talking about like, hey, these guys are number one, like top picks. These are the guys, to your point, this class is a little bit varied, where you go like, hey, like it's a little bit more murky in here. And I think that just speaks to the fact that this overall talent of this draft class is, I think, a little bit less than it's been in past years. Guys have gone back to school that we were thinking, hey, they're coming out. Like we felt that at Senior Bowl, where it's like, hey, there were some guys that were supposed to be at Senior Bowl that have gone back to school for another year. I'm kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit too in some respects. And what I found myself doing a little bit more of this time, Brandon, is I'm focusing more on where I feel like Seattle's, with what needs they do have, and I put those in quotations, their needs kind of line up within this draft, and more focused in there. Like I've done a little bit on the offensive line, but I haven't been nearly as invested in the offensive line because we're basically bringing everybody back. So they may even not take an offensive lineman in this class. So I've now focused in more on corner and running back and edge and some of those kind of positions. Have you found yourself doing the same thing as well?
A little bit, I think to a degree. I think, for instance, for me, quarterback and tight end have been ones that I would do, because I don't think some people have wondered about Drew Lock being moved. I think absent John being really swayed with a big offer, he remains, Jalen remains. So you're not going to literally do anything there. You've got even your emergency quarterback set up. So that just takes it off the board to me. Some of these other positions like offensive line, you're right, they could go that way. Although I will say that I think in John's case, in really trying to study what he's done through the years and how he's changed in his ways and moved, the success that he's had in moving to value and the picks that he has made at the times through that period, which have not always been to fill that spot or hole or need to go the opposite direction of it, I think has to a degree lead you into being open to some of these other spots. Because that was the pathway prior, is that you got great blast, you got the championship, then you got to the draft, and then over a collection of drafts, you found a lot of selections that you could fit to need. The LJ Collier one being one of the greatest shining examples, but even Malik McDowell, Jermaine Ifedi, these kind of picks that you can see that these were not ones where that guy's the best at your board. That's you reaching out there. And it's understandable, by the way. I'm not knocking but I think he really did say, hey, okay, we've got DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith and Jigba. Oh, we've got Jaron Reed and Leonard Williams on the rock, Byron Murphy. I think that does allow him to say, hey, I'm going to, even Riley Mills last year. So I think you got to be a little open to it. But with that said, like there's 95 tight ends. I got no interest. You know what I mean?
No, exactly. And I think to your point there, that's the one thing I think John's done such a good job. And this whole department, really, the whole drafting department and organization really kind of had a real shift in direction, it seemed, after a certain point with the drafting process where they weren't hitting. We went through those years with the LJ Colors where they're reaching to fill needs rather than, hey, best player available, we take it, we put it on this team, and we just add to his strength if it's necessary. If you get to the board and, hey, the best guy on your board is a right guard at pick 32, maybe they're taking a right guard and they go, hey, this is what we're doing. We're picking the best guy that's on our board and going from there. But with the chat going off here, Brandon, there's obviously been a little bit of Seahawks news today before we get into our draft fits. Jake Bobo got tendered basically by the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it looks like the contract details have now come out on what that actually is. And I'll pull them up here on the screen if I can find them. Here we go. So Albert Breer came out. It's a 2-year, $5.5 million offer sheet that the Jags signed on Seahawks receiver Jake Bobo. $4.5 million guaranteed, $175 million signing bonus, and a 1.25 base for 2026 with a $2 million base for 2027. $50K workout, $200K per game, reach throughout the year, and $1.5 million in incentive, a max value of $7 million. Seattle has till March 25th. What do you make of this? And do you really think Seattle's going to match this?
I would be probably pretty surprised to see Seattle match it, though it does lower his cap hit from what it was going to be if he was on the 1 year. I think that there is a bit of load balance here as far as the structure of your wide receiver core and how you're paying guys, and then how you've got to find value in certain other areas. Meaning, for your $40 million up there with JSN, the $17 million per year Rashid deal is on the books, and then you have still Cooper Kupp at his full maximum full meal deal price as well. You look at that and you go, for a guy that's essentially a fifth wide receiver who's probably at his best operating more from the slot than he is out the outside / special teams. It's one where I go, I don't know if I'd see the fit there. They brought back a Cody White, and I kind of wonder about this with this being signed after the Cody White signing. If there's a little bit of an acknowledgement from Bobo going, I don't know if I would have been able to beat him out on the receiving stuff, and it might come down to me or him on the active roster when this all gets said and done. After training camp, I thought the timing was interesting on this one. So I would say Seattle's probably going to pass on this. It was going to be a year-by-year thing they would have done with Bobo, even if it meant paying a little bit more. But good for him. It's not a bad contract if we brought him back. He does bring value to the table. I'm not saying that, but it's just I don't think it's value. You have to pay this kind of price. Give me just 1 second. Sorry.
Yeah,
1 second.
No worries. And on my end, for everyone in there, like I look at this and I go, Cody White signing. I feel like John might have known this was coming down the pipe potentially, that there was a chance Bobo was going to be, signed to an offer sheet by someone else. And that's where I kind of look at it, and I agree with Brandon on this. Brandon, I was just saying, I agree with you. The Cody White signing now seems to be maybe even a hedge against this by John Schneider going, hey, he might have heard something through the league as all these guys are so well connected that, hey, there's a chance Bobo might get an offer sheet. Hey, let's make sure we're, again, hedging against the draft. We'll re-sign Cody White. We have Ricky White here. Torrey Horton should be back fully. And to your point, Jake Bobo was going to be receiver 5. If Torrey Horton's healthy, your top 4 receivers are JSN, Rashid Shaheed, Cooper Kupp, and Torrey Horton. There's no question about it. And then you're kind of filling in receiver 5 and 6, which, again, are special teams guys. We saw it last year with Cody White and, even Ricky White at a point, and Jake Bobo for the majority of the year. Bobo didn't really contribute offensively until the last kind of 2 games of the season, with it being, or I should say just the playoffs, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there just didn't seem to be as much he was bringing there. And I had a hope for Bobo. I liked him a lot coming out as the undrafted rookie free agent, because I think we didn't use him as much for that very thing he scored a touchdown on, which is the red zone stuff, which I thought he was really good with as in college. We just didn't maximize it.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. And that was something even, I think it was, the year with Ryan Grubb, we all went, okay, are we going to get DK Metcalf, a 50-50 fade ball in the end zone? And it never seemed to materialize. And all of a sudden we throw one up and Jake Bobo comes down with it. It always kind of made it interesting. But So as everyone can see on the bottom of the screen, the show.
One
Go ahead.
one last thing I just want to put to this, because this will be one of the narratives you hear a lot about with this, and I was looking this up as we were talking to just double check this. There was a surprising thing with Bobo that I think is a part of this decision, because when you start to put him together, you got to kind of put him together to make the value work at $3.5 million. $3.5 million is not a lot, but it's well above vet minimum. The run blocking element of things. He came in his first year, and this guy blocked like one of the best wide receivers in the sport, bar none.
Mm-hmm.
But it hasn't been quite the same the last 2 years when he's been out there. It's just not been in the same realm. And then so when there's a lot of people that are going to throw that on top of this of saying, well, it's not just the special teams and okay, he's the fifth receiver, but it's the run blocking he can give out. Number one, you telegraph your move when he's on the field because you can't trust him to create necessarily separation. But then, number 3, too, as well, it's not just been quite as good as it was out the gate.
No, it hasn't. It that was one thing I think this year that I think maybe stood out more, and why we saw such a decrease in his playing time for a majority of the year was the fact his run blocking wasn't as good to, put him out there. And again, like you said, it kind of tips your hand. When I saw formations where him and Derek Young were on the field, I'm going, maybe they're going to take a shot to Derek Young, but there's a good chance they're just going to hand the ball off here because they don't really trust either one of these guys in full-on receiver situations out there on the field. But as everyone can see on the bottom of the screen, this is kind of the layout for today's show. Me and Brandon are going to go over our fits. We're going to go through a little bit of a free agency recap now. We're going to grade out what the rest of our division did in free agency, where me and Brandon see their grades are. And then we're going to get into a live mock draft, and we'll get into your guys' comments and questions at the end. But Brandon, let's kind of take a look at your Seahawks one first here. I think it's an interesting one. So we'll bring this up on the screen right here. And this is your group of kind of your favorites so far that you've gone through. I know the list is a little bit bigger than that, but we kind of shortened it down here. So I'll let you speak to your list and why these guys are on it.
Yeah, I think that the Ruben Bain one is obviously pie in the sky stuff, and it's not likely that John, who's never traded up in a first round, would ever trade up. So I'm acknowledging that. This is a little bit about, though, us looking at our best fits here. When I looked at these prospects by this exercise, I understood it. Some of these will be high drafts, some of these will be a little bit lower, but we're looking to try to find those best that really, really fit pure and simply. And when I watch Ruben Bain's game, he's already operated out as that power edge in that out there, in college. I think he's got a lot of similarities to Reggie White. I don't want to go to that level and say he's going to become that, but that I would say that if there's a guy that you're thinking about maybe trading up for who might dip down a little bit because his arms aren't going to be long enough for certain people, but whose arms length doesn't show up on tape as being a problematic factor, this would be the guy to maybe do that. He slides into sort of an 8 or 9 spot. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this, Bryce, but if he slides into an 8 or 9 spot, and we're starting to talk about making a willingness to trade for a Crosby, for instance, who we know's got a bit of a, let's call it a gimpy knee, who's probably going to want to be a highly paid guy. The risk that comes with that, if you do that, with the new contract versus being able to get a guy like this on a rookie deal who is able to slide down a little bit just only if because of the arm length, who might be one of those guys with actual upside in this draft, in a draft, as we talked about at the top, that doesn't have a lot of upside. And I'm not going to spend as much time on all my guys on this one, but I did want to hear, we didn't have really a chance to talk, I don't think as much about it on the syndicate, of where you might stand on a willingness to move up in this deal.
If Ruben Bain Jr. was there, we're talking one of the more elite players, falls into that, 8 to 13, 14 range. And I agree with you to that point. I would move up in that case if we're able to get one of the top players in this draft and move up into that space to get him. I was talking with Robert Staten about it the other day on my show, and I said, one of the guys I would move up for, as crazy as it sounds, and some people probably cringe, was if Jeremiah Love started to fall down the board as a running back, he would be a guy I would potentially go up and get in this draft class along with a Ruben Bain Jr. type of player. Because to your point, like if we were willing to trade pick 32 for Crosby, and obviously all the knee injuries and concerns that have come along with that, I don't see the issue of going up and getting one of the more elite players in this draft. So I'd be on board with it.
Well, and I'm with you on the Love thing too. I think that the differing part, and excuse my cat if she's crying, she's a little needy right now, but the differentiating part between the two to me is that Love is pretty hard line to me to go to 4. By the approach the Titans have had this offseason with the money to spend, you're not putting a lot, especially nothing, to the running back position, which they could have easily done, to set it up more for them to pick something else or go to a variety of other things that, quote unquote, would have more positional value to be picking number 4 overall. It seems like if he doesn't go there, Giants are happy to jump on him with 2 feet the second that he drops into them. And so you go, well, okay, the price to move up to 4 as well is incredible. I mean, I know even just going back the 4 or 5 spots to 8 or 9, there's actually kind of a big difference in what the requirement of cost would be to move up versus if you're going from 32, which I think you go 32 to 4 here, Bryce. I think it's 3 first-round picks. I think if you go 32 to 9, I think the price could be a little bit less significant.
No, I agree with you. And hey, we might be trading 5 years into the future if Cleveland has their way here, Brandon, with what they're proposing, that we'll have the ability to trade. Oh, it's so dumb. Listen to John talk about it the other day with Bob Stelton and Dave Weinman on 710 being like, that, like, what are we talking about? 5 years from now, we can trade first round picks. Like, what does that even accomplish? And it's, of course, it's Cleveland offering that solution. I'm not for it. I like how they can go 3. But I would agree with you. You fall to 9. I think, again, you're right that, 4 up at that height. Yeah, it's going to be 3 first-round picks to move up. But 9 through 14 in that range, you're giving up 32 and maybe a 2027 mid-round pick to kind of go up, like round 3 maybe, or around even your second maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be a raw 2. It's going to be 2 first-round picks to pull it. I mean, and then you're going to maybe need to sweeten it a little on top, but it will not be needed to be, I think, a heavy sweetener. And you might be able to get away with including a player in that as the kicker on that deal to make that work. So it's, now that you can maybe move an edge or, maybe the extra linebacker you got, and so I think there could be some intelligence behind maybe doing this, because I think that he's only dropping for really one pure simple reason, and it has nothing to do with the tape. It has nothing to do with how good a player he is. It has nothing to do with how complete a player he is. And again, coming back to it, purified fit for this defense. They literally put him out in that wide 10 thing that I call, you know what I mean by that, with that alignment, and they just let him go crazy. And he's so hard to deal with, because imagine this, folks. You have a guy literally aligned out so wide that he's running downhill at you by the point of contact. He brings absolutely next level power into play. And then suddenly he's dipping down around by your ankles as you're loading up for his power. And he can throw one to the other at you over and over again, and you don't know which one to deal with. And I just, that in this defense to me, I think would be a phenomenal fit, an easy fit to see how it would work. Like, I'm not have to wait on like some edges, Bryce, because we got to think about this too. I think with these edges, I see a lot of people, for instance, mentioning Malachi Lawrence. Yeah. And if this was a Coach Carroll defense, I would understand having a Malachi Lawrence. I think he's Cliff Averill without the 10-yard split. Is my opinion.
I would say that's a very, accurate representation of it for sure. And I agree with you. I think he fits in Pete Carroll's scheme. I don't think he fits that well in Mike McDonald's scheme.
No, he's going to look great on the Niners. He's great in that system. So, or with the Titans, but you're not going to have a guy like that work here, because you want those power edges. And it's a good news, bad news situation. The bad news side of it is that they're not going to do a lot of pretty stuff. It ain't going to be snatching the edges, bending to the corner. And I know I'm spending a long time on this, but I wanted to kind of make a case with you, and I'm glad to hear you're kind of open to it as well, because it's not really being talked about, I don't think, a lot. But that stuff looks pretty. The guy with the nasty Dwight Freeney spin move, it's awesome. But the guy that goes back there and can crumble a pocket with his bare hands and then also provide dip, because one thing you have at Derek Hall is a guy that can crumble a pocket, but he doesn't have dip. So offensive linemen can just simply load up for the power and not really have to worry about the dip. And that makes it to where it gets neutralized a little bit, his power, because of that. He's got great power. He can kind of supersede it. But even going back to his Auburn days, it was bull rush and the long arm of the law, the one arm bull rush he does. That's his other move off the edge. So I like Ruben. I won't spend much more time on this, but I'd love to hear that you're with it. I'm with it, putting the assets down. This gives you a chance to have a difference maker potentially off that edge and what he can bring. He doesn't have to come in here and start 24/7. You can just put him into the rotation of snaps and let him roll. I know Anthony Hill is not a need, but he's one of my favorite linebackers in this draft. I think he might have better instincts than Sonny Styles. Styles is a safety going down, and he's a freak show and all that, but that's still at the end of the day a former safety going down to play inside linebacker and off-ball linebacker, and I feel that on the tape with Styles at times. Anthony Hill is a monster. You could say every bit as physically impressive with what he does, the size, speed, component things. He's not 220. Bryce, he's a legit 230 guy. Yeah. Jennings Dunker, I think everybody in the Hawk fandom knows this guy at this point and what he brings and who he is, and everybody loves him. And not just because of the mullet, they can, I think, see a little bit of the dream. Operates out of the zone system, can play for the offensive line positions. Maybe your future center, maybe your future right guard, can immediately be a little bit of this in fitting into some of the swing nature, at least insurance for Abraham Lucas. And then he's got upside, in my opinion. I'd be interested here on your, and I'm going to go just through these, but I'd be interested here on you from when you get to Dunker on if you see the same kind of bend, and then also the sinking of the hips that I think will allow him to succeed if he transitions out of tackle to guard. That gives me a lot better confidence than most offensive linemen I wouldn't have, that he can do that and do it well. And he had, of course, great Senior Bowl. Cade McDonald's just an ass kicker, dude. This is a Baltimore Raven, Mike McDonald type defensive lineman. I know it's not a need, but this is just, we're talking about fits. What's the hand of the glove here? And to me, this is a guy that just is going to go out there and kick your butt all day long on the line of scrimmage. He'll make his share of plays in there. He can do a little bit of pass rush, a little bit of run defense, both sides of it a bit. Not going to flash super highly as a pass rusher necessarily, but not a nothing burger as well. So love him. Kalen Rutledge, good fallback plan for Dunker. Get him maybe more into like the third round. I like how he moves for being a pure, nasty right guard who can also get down on hill, who brings thump at the point of impact, who moves people off the line of scrimmage as well. Passable as a pass protector. I think he fits to this scheme with his mobility, which I thought was the biggest part that stood out with his really good tape, and he's got a good amount of experience there playing. All of these cornerbacks, dude, we're going to dive into these guys, but all of them have just a very, I would say, mild amount of variance, both in the upside and in differentiation. To me, with Brandon Cisse, you get the twitch. You get a little bit of that going on with I think Dalen Everett. You get a little bit more of the draping physicality of the corner out there. These guys are all similar size, by the way, too. Yeah. Then Colton Hood, you get a guy that's a little bit of a split the difference guy between those two. Like, he's a bit of both. He's got some twitch to him, but then he's also got some of that physicality, length, size to him. And then Chris Johnson's got a little bit of the twitch too as well with him, but he's a little bit, to me, a little more at times cerebral in his approach out there, though he does have good physical ability and all that. All of them are really good as far as tacklers for the most part and what they do in the run game. Most of them, for the most part, are very comfortable in the pressed off coverage. I think in Johnson, he's probably a little bit more off coverage zone guy. And then in Cisse, Hood, and Dalen Everett, you can press man them kind of all day long if you want. They've got the speed to run for days with guys. They've got the length that I love enough length. I know with Cisse's like, they did something with the arm length testing. Like, it all went shorter this year. I don't buy that everybody just collectively lost an inch off their arms for some reason. So I don't see the problem on tape. I'd be interested to hear with you on that, with where you stand on these corners there. You want me to keep going, or we want to unpack these ones so far?
Well, I'll start with a Dunker one, Brandon, that you wanted my thoughts. I see the same thing on film. It's the same thing I saw at Senior Bowl with him. That when I saw them, because you remember at Senior Bowl, he played outside and then they'd move him in occasionally to guard. And that's what I was looking at. Can his hips sink? Can he still be fluid? Can he still move as comfortably? And there were some reps where he was a guard, and I was like, I think he might be a better guard than he is a tackle. Like, realistically, like, he just that. And the one thing that I absolutely loved about Dunker's film, and I see some people, I've had it in mind going, well, he's no Gray Zabel. Okay, well, Gray Zabel was a unique player last year. Like, he's one of the very few linemen that we've ever seen come in the league as a rookie and basically give up no sacks or no pressures throughout the entirety of the year. I'm not expecting Dunker to be that. But where I'm looking at Dunker in the Zabel comparison is a guy that went to Senior Bowl, a guy that comes out of a certain style of offense that's been able to adapt to the NFL schemes of what they're asking guys to do now at the line and do it well. Like, when we looked at some of those linemen at Senior Bowl, you went, yeah, you're coming out of a spread system. You're struggling to do this. It's a bit of an issue. And then you watch Dunker, and it's like, yeah, there's no issue. He can do it. He can move inside. He can move outside. He understands what's being asked of him. And it's part of the O-line coach he has at Iowa, who's one of the best in the business in college football. But I want to get your thought on this, Brandon. His initial ability to engage so forcefully and stand wall,
you're hidden.
Good.
You just stole. Yep. Keep going. Yeah, you're exactly where I was going to go next.
He stonewalls people. Like, we saw some of the better edge players try and go against him, whether it was Derek Moore. And when they moved guys inside, we saw Jackson go up against him, and Hunter, who everyone was raving about. And he literally just stands them up, and they don't go anywhere. And he just sinks his hip, stands them up, and that's the end of the rep. And that was in scrimmage. That was in one-on-ones. It didn't matter. And those are things that when you're looking for that guard to play in this system where you're going to be running play action, you're going to have to deal with some of the better pass rushers in the NFL on the inside in this division. That's what you're looking for out of your right guard. And so, again, for me, I'm a big Dunker fan, but those are the things that stood out to me about his game where I went, yes, that translates, and those are special attributes to have.
He's got it is a punch that comes off the line of scrimmage from the tackle position. All the leverage stuff you just talked about, where it's just, you can feel that there's a force coming off. We get with Bradford at times for as big and as long and as strong as he is. You can sometimes get variance on how forceful he'll be coming off the ball. This guy comes off like an efficient just bullet off the line of scrimmage every time that he's fired in the way that he does. And with that leverage, with the sinking of the hips, to me, it just all combines up to be perfect for this scheme and system, because he's going to land his punch first, which means you can angle him right and you can get him into, those kind of, shielding blocks and those kind of positions, because you can count on him winning to the point every time. The other thing, to your back just a little bit on this, as far as the Zabel talk goes, let's also never forget that there's a difference between right guard and left guards.
Yes.
And that, yes, they are both guards, but it's not the same skill set you're looking for. Even the modern age, even as everything's overlapped and become all as one, right? Which is what the whole thing's going to at times, it seems. Beyond that, though, it still is, you need the left guy to be the dancing bear type guard. You need the right guy to be the more of the power guy. What's nice with him, because he's got the tackle background, is he gives you some of the dance with the power that he brings to that right guard position that makes him such a nice natural fit in there. And you always have the fallback, if it doesn't work there, to slide him into center, which we'd have no doubts that he would be a phenomenal center if that's where he had to land as a final destination. Though I do think, like you do, that he'll be a fine guard.
Yeah, if you draft him, Brandon, in my opinion, it is an immediate competition at right guard in training camp. Where they're going, this is shot for shot. Anthony Bradford, you're in a battle right now to get your position. And again, the other thing I think he does better watching him is he's better to get to the second level. And in this zone scheme that you want to run here, which I even think will be more dedicated into the zone this year than it was even last year with Kubiak, because we did see at points with Kubiak and Benton, they did get into gap power. They did get into some of that stuff. Shanahan doesn't really dabble a lot in that. He is very much inside-outside zone, and that's kind of the variations with what he does. I think you'll see Brian Fleury lean into that a little bit more, and that's where you're going to need that movement of that guy that can climb to that backer or climb to that safety if needed in space, if you're running zone into the boundary and doing some of those things. And I think that's where Dunker could be one of the guys. When you're talking about the corners, though, Brandon, they all are almost the same player. It's just what you prefer more, basically.
Yeah, it is.
Like,
it's boring. I'm sorry, folks. It's boring evaluation from our perspective, but he's not lying to you.
It's I'm sorry. When I look at the corners, I go, okay, to your point, Chris Johnson's more of an off the ball, can play zone. He can play man. He's athletic enough to, but he's not going to get up in your face in the line of scrimmage. He'll come down and tackle. And then when you look at Cisse and Hood, they're guys that'll be up there and they're comfortable in that spot of being face to face with a receiver and getting hands on right away. But they're all about the same size. They all run relatively in the same speed, and they're all kind of willing tacklers. So it's really like, okay, who's there on the board when you're going to pick to fill the need of, adding another corner to this group. And there's even a couple guys that maybe are a little bit on the smaller side that I like even later on in the draft, where I go, yeah, these guys could come in and still compete in Seattle and be guys that could be started for you down the line. But really, this cornerback group kind of lines up perfectly for what Seattle is looking for in the corner position.
That's what comes down to, is that because in Mike McDonald's defense, and it's really, I was thinking about today, that it's the offense and defense are different in certain ways. With the defense, you're looking for the guys that can do more. I think with the offense, it becomes at times in certain positions about fitting to what we have as the need of the system we're trying to run. And so with that, these guys, they bring that ability with that pressed off coverage to zone, to man, and you're a pretty good tackler. You'll be active in the run game. You'll get off of blocks. This allows Mike to be able to do more things with you than the boxed in kind of corner that's got to play it to like this or to like that. And it's not a shade at these guys that we are kind of putting them all in the same camp. It is that they are top end prospects too. And all of them are going to go probably very similarly in the same place this draft, and deservedly so. So Seattle wouldn't be bad for getting one of these guys. They're very good players. It's just kind of striking how similar they are all the way down the line, when you tend to see with corners that they get put, especially in college, Bryce, they tend to be put into doing one specific set thing. It's like the Washington corners, just sit up and press all day and don't do anything else.
No, exactly. And it's I look at that, and I look at, even offensive lines now in college. It's like, hey, you're going to live in the spread. You're going to have to live in a 2-point stance. You're not going to get to go downhill. And so then they get to the NFL game. It's like, no, we don't do that here. You need to be able to do a whole bunch of things to start at the NFL level. And that's why you see guys that are starters in college never really materialize, because they just can't flip that switch. They've been stuck in that certain box for so long, and that's where they're comfortable and they can't get out of it. And that's where you see guys struggle. Like a prime example of a corner I look at in Seattle's history, I go, had so much physical ability. We heard so much about how he was going to be the next big thing, because it was Thorold Simon. Remember when we got Thorold Simon and Richard Sherman's talking about, and he's perfect for cover 3. Well, then when teams figured that out and in the Super Bowl, New England, he had to go in because Jeremy Lane went out, and it was like he couldn't get his hands on receivers. He couldn't play press at all when you needed to. He was fine if the ball was up in the air and he could go run to it because he was an athlete, but outside of that, he wasn't any good in man coverage, and he wasn't good in press, and it showed really quickly.
Yeah, as well. He had no business playing the slot, but that also was the inactivity of Marcus Burley, and they had to throw him out there to do it. But he did never quite, work, and that's where I probably would say why I love this scheme so much is looking more for the corners that can do more things means I have more openings of guys I can go get. We're not looking at this great cornerback class, Bryce, and saying, well, I only that, and that.
Yeah.
That's all that really fits our thing. So if those guys aren't on the board for us, we're screwed. Versus the guy that can go, I can work with a variety of things. Just give me more ability to be a utility type guy in what you can do rather than I've got to just hold you into this narrow corridor. So it just allows us to be able, I think, get better talent because of it. Just another reason to love this defense.
I totally agree. Well, Brandon, continue on with your list here.
All right, so we've got Mike Washington Jr. I think this one's not a hard one for anybody to wrap their head around. I think he's a de jure kind of guy, a little bit like Jadarian Price is, though we do need to have a talk about Jadarian Price. Washington's got the burst, the speed, the size that the system looks for. You got to have things kind of blocked up a little bit. He's not going to be your Walker, figure it out in the backfield if we get penetration guy, and then I'll go and get home. You got to get the hole open. You got to get him a little bit to the point where you can get those long legs up to speed of just a little bit, Bryce. But he's a fantastic prospect, a home run hitter. You're probably going to look more for a bit of a home run hitter, I'd estimate right now with losing Walker, and he could provide that. Kamari Ramsey out of USC is a guy that's been asked to do a variety of things in college, including playing some slot. I love these safeties that not only have had to do the free safety, strong safety, split safety stuff in college, but then you've actually asked him to come down at times as too and play that slot role and coverage there. I think he's just a good all-around player, and he gives you some ball skills into play as for the position as well. If you draft this guy second round into the second round, are able to get them, I think that'd be a really good value there. A guy that could potentially come in and over supersede Okada, give you a little more size than Okada. And I do just like what you have from him as far as upside goes at the safety position, which I don't know if there's as talented as some of the safeties are in this class. I don't know if all of them have as much of the high upside ceiling as some people think, like Thieneman, for instance, that people are caught up on that being. And I like Thieneman. He's not bad, but I've got some questions on some things with him too. Logan Jones, center, one of the most athletic centers that, because coming out of this class, probably get him a little bit later on in this draft, a guy that gets in there and you probably could move on from an Oluwatimi pretty quickly then and get more of the pure athletic fit that you're looking for the position at that point with a guy that started a lot of games and has put on some really good tape. Just a good all-around player. He doesn't have any kind of holes in his game and could come in and really, even push a guy like Sundell. In the two edges we got up next, this is a little bit similar, and quite frankly, I think you could throw Danny Dennis Sutton into this mixture as well for various reasons here. Zion Young would be the guy that, if I had to guess, would be the clubhouse leader for the Seahawks as far as their favorite power edge into that second-ish, third-roundish range. He's really good. He's got all what you want to see. Heavy hands, works off contact, throws guys around, monster in the run game, high-effort kind of player. Derek Moore, pressure machine. You can play stunts and games with him. He can also be a guy that can be an edge taker, can throw a variety of different things at tackles. Has got some really great production coming out of Michigan. Heavy-handed guy, a little bit like Zion Young. And Sutton, to a lesser degree, Sutton's more of a project, I think, a little bit, but still has a lot of upside to him, a lot of just natural physical size and length to him that you can't kind of teach. And then Zakiya Wheatley was the other safety I was looking at a little bit longer on. I put, again, Wheatley and Kilgore would be kind of similarly to put together here. Wheatley's been a little bit more in the cover two shell stuff purely at Penn State and done that really well. Kilgore's a little bit like Kamari Ramsey, where they've put him a lot at the corner because, Emanwari was holding him up from safety last year, so he had to go into the slot, and then they eventually got put out into safety this year and really kind of started to take off, just turned 21 years old with Kilgore. I'd love him too as well, but I think Wheatley gives you a level of floor in what he's providing here that I find interesting as far as if we're looking for a guy like this that comes in and can potentially really push Okada. If Okada gets injured, can we go to this guy and not miss a beat like last year at the safety position? I think you could with a guy like this. Don't know about his ceiling necessarily being huge, but is a real pure schematic fit for the skill set he brings. Good size, good tackling ability, pretty good in coverage, always seems to be in the right spot, the right place. I'd say that about Chris Johnson too, just so he's really in the right spot at all times, always very well aware on the field of what's going on. But that'd be my list.
It's actually interesting with the Zion Young, Derek Moore thing, because I like both of them, but the one for me that's kind of jumped is actually Danny Dennis Sutton. And because I think for me, the reason why I've seen the jump, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Brandon, is I think you touched on a little bit. His ceiling may be a bit higher because of his athleticism. I think he, out of the three, might be the most athletic, where you have the most ability to capitalize on that. But he won't have as much of an impact as either one of those would have, I think, year one. I think you could put Zion Young in or Derek Moore in as the rotational guy in Seattle's, edge group, and he could throughout the year get more and more opportunities to affect games because of the fact that they're, I think, a little bit closer to being finished products, where with Danny Dennis-Sutton, I think you bring him in and he's going to play less than maybe what Mafe even played. But his ceiling in year 2 and year 3 might get higher because of his athletic ability once he gets in an NFL weight room and in an NFL program.
Yeah, I could totally be convinced of this because I would, and I think it's a good way you've put it, as far as the upside maybe being increased over what you get with Young and Moore. I think that's a very fair point with it. I mean, he's 6'5", 265, and he carries that weight like it's nothing. He carries that weight like you could easily throw another 10, 15 pounds on there, which just, that's another thing that if you're talking about an appeal to McDonald, like, oh, I can get this guy to 275 and I don't lose anything as far as his quickness goes, and he's just going to be a hammer off the edge at that point. And when you look at like what he needs to develop, he's a plan A guy. And if he's got a good plan A and he gets the plan A through, it looks amazing. He just doesn't have the counters and the plan. Well, that's developmental stuff. That'll come down the line with time as he does develop these pass rush moves and his ability with it. He's a guy that I'm looking at my notes right now, if I showed it to you, you'd laugh, where it's like some of these guys, it's, got a couple of different notes you just put down, bam, 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 bam. And then I've got him like a half page of notes on him of what I wrote, which I think it more than speaks to how much I love him, which I do like him a lot. It speaks to how complicated of an evaluation he is. Because you have some of those ones where you're just like, bank, 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 bank. I know what this guy's is and I can put him over there. With Danny, I think it's a little bit more of that. I like where you're coming from, where you got to be creative and look at a little bit of that proverbial upside, which is there. It's undeniable. You see the flashes of it on tape. You can see how he's still kind of a man-childish in his build.
Exactly. So that was Brandon's list, everyone. I'm going to bring up my list here, and there's some similarities, but there's also a few other guys that I think are on Brandon's list, his bigger list, but we only kind of went to 15 players. And so I'm just going to remove the comments here so we can see it, but this is my list here on favorite Seahawks. So I've got Avion Terrell as one of my favorite corners in this class. I don't think he'll be there, unfortunately, but if he would be another guy, if he started to fall, Brandon, would be a guy I potentially would go up and get, because I think he's probably the best corner in this class. I've got Chris Johnson there, same as you. I really like his skill set. Danny Dennis-Sutton, who we just talked about, the edge out of Penn State. And I've got Jadarian Price on my board as a running back, because I think he is a real option at 32 for Seattle. And I want to get your thoughts on Price here, Brandon, because I know it's an interesting topic right now. Obviously, Seattle hasn't really fully addressed the running back position in free agency, like I think some had hoped after losing Ken Walker. Do you think Price is really kind of maybe the leader in that, realm for players at 32 for Seattle right now?
I don't. And I don't want to backtrack too much, but I want to just cover one thing with Avion really quickly, because I want to get and then get to the thoughts on this one a little bit. So I love Avion Terrell's tape. Great tape. Don't disagree with anything you said about the fact that he's probably going to be taken up ahead of where we're picking. And these are more questions than they are answers. So I don't, this is what I'm wrestling with when I think about Terrell as far as an option goes. One, kind of hard-lined as an off-cover corner, a little bit like his brother was. And that stands out on tape where it's like he's living in off coverage, man. And doesn't have the longest arms. So we come back to versatility within the system. Can I have moments and times where I can call upon you to play press man and know that you can pull that off? Do you have conviction that he can do that?
I think he can. Now, again, I think part of the reason why, just watching his film, and this is where I think, again, when we watch this film and we watch these kids in college, I feel that they're done a disservice where it's like, come in, play our system, and we're not really going to develop the other skill sets necessary to prep you for the NFL level. Because I look at his brother, and his brother was a similar player too. He played off ball, but his brother learned how to be more of a guy that could get up in the face of players at the NFL level, and it served him well. He's maybe not the greatest at it, but at least it's something in his tool belt, per se. I think Avion can do the same thing. I think, with Carl Scott and the DB, defensive back group that we have here, I think it's definitely something where you're going to get such a talented player that you can develop that skill set. Now, he may not be the best press corner. But to your point, can you come up and do it if we put you in that situation occasionally? I think there's a good chance he can be a player that can come up and do that for you.
Is that the best landing spot though for him versus going to a system where he gets to go out there and live in off coverage like 24/7?
I would, if he can just live in off
the
coverage.
one other thing,
Yeah.
just one other layer to this, a fourth of his snaps last year in the slot.
Yeah. No,
So you
fair.
can see where I go with that too with this as well. And I'm not saying I don't like the guy. I don't want to seem like I'm
Yep.
kicking the legs out of your whole deal here. These are the little things that I have as far as some precariousness in looking at him, especially if we're talking about the trading up factor.
Yeah, I think if he goes to a place that he can live in off coverage and just stay with what his skill set is, I think he's probably going to be more of an impactful starter for you right out of the gate for sure. I would agree with that. And to your point, he again, the one thing we know with Mike McDonald in this scheme, they like their versatility. I think if you bring him in though, again, I think he could play in the slot more, but I think again, it would be the development of his technique of, okay, how are you with hands on playing up front in front of somebody? And I think that's where I trust our coaches. If our coaches and this group identify him and he falls, I don't think he'll be there. But if he were to fall and they identify him as, hey, he is top of our board, because when we don't necessarily have him in those skill sets, he'll be one of the top corners, playing off ball, playing in the zone, doing the stuff that we need him to do in that regard, and we can coach up the rest, then I'm all for it. So that's kind of how I would look at it. I do think, though, if he was in a strictly off-ball defense, he's going to come into the league and excel much quicker than he would maybe coming into Seattle right away.
That's fair. And I'm not going to poo-poo if he's drafted at 32, by the way. So I can understand, like, great tackler. I think he's a better tackler than his brother was as a prospect coming out. He's got some ball skills. He can jump through the roof and overcome a little bit of the 31-inch arms, being a little bit slightly under, but it doesn't show up on tape. So there's good stuff there with it. I just wanted to kind of understand with you too on that, because that's been stuff I've been thinking about a little bit with him recently. As far as Jadarian goes, I'm not as big on Jadarian as other people are, I think. I do like him as a prospect. I do have him as a day two guy. I put kind of a Melvin Gordon comp on it. I don't think he's going to be quite the prospect Gordon was looked at as coming out, where he's taken as a first round pick, but they're kind of similarly built. He's not a burner per se. He's got fine speed. He's kind of a guy on tape where you look at to me and you go, he looks like a guy that should be 5'11", 220 into the sort of that Nick Chubb range where, okay, you're 4.49 on the 40, and you're 1.6 on your 10-yard split, which I think is a very big key in this in a second that we want to talk about. But then you're actually only sub 200 pounds.
Yeah.
So, like, to me, I'm looking at it going, I see a guy that's got two different issues at point. Number one, your running style needs you to be about 20 pounds heavier to pull that off in the NFL. This would be like a jump ball wide receiver that was 6 foot tall at college. Like, that's how they won to me a little bit. That's one. Number two, burst, buddy. I don't, yes, Zach Charbonnet's on this roster, but was Zach Charbonnet on the roster when you had the outside zone system and stuff? No, you inherited it. Does that mean that now you're going to be looking for that 10-yard split kind of guys you go forward? I'm not so sure. And I could be wrong on this. This is going to be a class for me, Bryce, that's going to prove a lot about my theories I've developed about both running back and edge and you looking for certain types, because that's been the track record of this system. The Shanahan system is not one that's like every running back under the sun is beautiful and magnificent and we love them all. It's not that way. It wants a very set type of thing. And if you go back to even the Terrell Davis, it's all like the man evolved thing. And you pull it all back to the original guy, which is Terrell Davis that set the standard. Burst. Terrell had burst. And at 1.6, I think you would not 1.61. I think you wouldn't push back on me saying that there are some questions there on that do show up on tape. It's not just a testing time thing. Yes, he can bust out these big runs, but there's a difference between that burst doing well enough in college and that burst being a step slow for a guy that's a little underweight. I know that's a long way around the bend, but this is a guy that's being hotly talked about right now. So,
I think those are fair. I think that's a really fair and really good point to bring up. Is if you again go back and look at this system to its roots, because I think this is where I think this offense is going to go. I think we're going to see more of a steerhead into the Shanahan side of this than the Kubiak, and they're slightly different in their running backs that they've picked in their offenses. Like, you look at Arian Foster, he had a bit of a burst, but Arian Foster also had way more patience than some running backs in letting the play develop, which is why I think he was so successful in Houston. Where you look at Terrell Davis for the Shanahans, to your point, it was burst. You look at Clinton Portis when he got there, it was burst. When you looked at Mike Anderson running the ball, and some of these guys that have come in that system throughout the years, they weren't necessarily burners down the field, but it was the burst level, to your point. And this is something I've been wrestling with Price as well, because I've seen so many people, just immediately, at 32, because Daniel Jeremiah and so many other people. And I'm not saying he's not a good running back. That's not what I'm saying at all.
Right.
But what is the fit? Is he going to develop that burst? No, probably not. I don't see him all of a sudden gaining that as a pro. Maybe he gets a little faster. Maybe he reshapes his body in a way that allows it. But this is where he is one of my favorite backs. I'm not poo-pooing that, but it's one of those things where that's why I want to get your thoughts on it as well, because there's been such a love affair with him, I'd say, over the last 3 weeks, as being like, this is the guy Seattle needs because we didn't address running back in the free agency the way we wanted to. This is the guy that they're immediately pivoting to.
And that's what you mentioned, Arian Foster. I think that there's those guys you can find that can to not necessarily be those pure fit. Though Arian Foster, I'd be interested if we went back and saw his combine, if we wouldn't find him at the 155, 154 range of things, which it's a small difference, but it's a big difference at that speed structure. Guys like Kenny McIntosh, for instance, I think was a 152 guy that's currently on the roster on his combine. So it's like, okay, the 40 wasn't great, but the 10 was great. And that I think if you don't have that thing, that's the base parameter that you need for this outside zone system, that's okay. It's not that has to be hard line, but then, okay, what's the secondary skill you have that overcomes that? In Foster's case, like you're saying, the patience and vision. So in Jadarian Price, is he a pure tackle breaker? I mean, he's a good tackle breaker. He works good off contact balance, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily a center stage of his game. Does he have grade A vision? Not Arian Foster vision. It's good. It's a solid part of his game, I'd say. I'm not going to undersell that part. It's not like it's bad. And I agree with you. He's a good back, but I look at the Cardinals. I'm running a gap-based system. I like those more of a little bit of the upright runners that can stack in behind the offensive linemen that are lining up like a freaking Congo line in front of them as they go downhill. Like, that's the type of team that seems more of the fit for me for a Price than coming here to a zone system where you're kind of having to put him in there a little bit. He's well worth being drafted in the spot that people are talking about. So I'll get back to, again, great prospect, but I think you got to fit him more into the gap system than a zone system overall.
I would agree. I think him going initially straight downfield in north-south gives him a better opportunity to get to that speed that he does have. He's not a burst guy. It allows you to kind of pick and choose and hit it and go. So, and then we've talked about Mike Washington. He's on my list as well. I really like him as a prospect there. You talk about burst. He's got a little bit more burst than Price, I think, in that area. One of the O-linemen that I am intrigued by here, Brandon, that I think you can get probably in the mid rounds, is Carver Willis out of Washington. And he's a guy that I think character-wise, and that's another big part of this, is, character guys fit what Seattle's doing. I think he's a great character fit. I think he's a guy that can slide into right guard and can compete there. He's got the ability, watching him on tape, playing tackle, Kansas State to Washington. And if you watch the Ohio State game from last year, he was going up against McDonald and stuff like that, and was having great success against them and really doing a good job against NFL talent. I think he's a guy you could slide into guard, but you don't have to take him up necessarily where you take Dunker. He's a guy I think you potentially could get later on. I've got Rutledge on here. He's a guy like we talked about. He's a guy I think you can get a little bit later on, but he is a pure right guard, I think, where he's a mean SOB. Like, you watch his film, he is a mean SOB on film, and I'm here for it.
Finisher.
He finishes. He is going to he gives me the J.R. Sweezy, Giacomini kind of finish to the plays that we used to see in that 2013 group, where you see him go flying over the top. I'm gonna finish the play and send a tone. And those are guys that you sometimes need on the offensive line. We got one in Abe Lucas, and I think Gray's got a little bit in him. But to have another guy, young guy, out of that group, as a guy that can move in the zone, I think he's probably one of the better zone guards in this class.
Yeah, I really like him. He's right just behind Rutledge for me, as far as in that manner. I think he's a kind of a plug and play potential dude too. Top of it all.
I think you draft him and he's competing again with Bradford right in that right guard. A couple other edges on here that I like that I think are guys again later on. Gabe Jackas, we saw him from Illinois at Senior Bowl. He's a guy that I like because I think you can move him around a little bit on that defensive line. He's got a little bit of dip to him and burst, but I think he's also strong enough at that edge to set the run edge. And then this guy is interesting for me out of Michigan, and that's Barham, because he played linebacker and they moved him down to edge. He played this little bit of a hybrid role. And there's some things about his game. Again, this is a guy I think you get in the mid rounds. I don't think he's going in round 1 or round 2, maybe late round 3, but probably 4 or 5. But he's a guy I think that has untapped potential. So we talked about Danny Dennis Sutton a little bit. I think he's more raw for sure. But I think he's another big guy that can potentially hold up and play what Mike McDonald wants his edges to do. And I think he's a guy, we saw Mike, drop Derek Hall and Tank Lawrence a few times this year into coverage. He's a guy that can do that from his linebacker background. So I wanted to get your thoughts on those two edges.
So I haven't had a chance to say CJ's on. His just kind of came out of my radar. So he's one of the next guys up on my list to take a look at, but I've heard some really good things about him. So not surprising if he was a potential guy. And we got to look at these guys coming out of this defense that have played in essentially the McDonald defense as far as, potentials. Gabe Jackas is a little bit of a tougher one for me. Thicker kind of edge out there, 6'3", 270. And so on the surface of it, he looks like a power edge. But I do think that there's some issues I have with him when you actually come down to setting the edge. Not that he can't do it, but he's got a which way did he go kind of mental awareness when it comes to the edge and what the ball carrier is doing around him. So it's like, well, you set the edge, it's great, but if you don't know where the ball carrier is at any point in time, it's kind of irrelevant at that point. Because if he's going around your edge and you're just stuck on the block, you're not getting off the block, or he's going inside your shoulder, you're not getting off the block. And I did see a lot of that on the tape with him where I came back to saying, look, there's stuff here this guy does what maybe would be a better input on a 4-3 defense with his hand in the dirt. But more better is on a defense where he gets to attack, for instance. More of a defense that would require a guy to go for TFLs and try to go live in the backfield. In this defense, I think you're going to look for these defensive linemen on the edge to hold a little bit more of the ground, and that's got to be the centerpiece first when you walk in the door, no matter all this other stuff you bring. Like, I got all this other extra stuff. I got this, and I got that, and I got this thing. I'm a hand fighter, and I'm a leverage war. I win the leverage game, but can you do this one base thing, which is set the hard edge, collapse it inside, and be active in the run game off of that a bit? Because that's a heavy requirement. It's a tough job in this defense, what you ask those edges to do. You got no help out there. You're on an island. You've got to do the job kind of on your own in a lot of ways. The cavalry is going to arrive, but you've got to be the front line, the tip of the spear on this one. I just wonder, I'm not out on him. I got a 3rd round grade on him. Love him a lot. Could be that fit. It's more of just that question I had with him when I watched him setting the run there.
Yeah, and Barnes, I think a guy you might be interested in. Again, I think he's that, guy that you take later on as a developmental guy. I think he comes in, he's probably ahead of O'Toole and Ivy in what he can do for you, but he's not a guy you're going to be saying, hey, you're going to be playing 35% of the snaps in this rotation necessarily out of the gate. Another running back I like, Emmett Johnson out of Nebraska. I think he's got the burst to play in this scheme. He's a guy that I do like a lot in this, out of this class. Jalen Kilgore, we talked about him a little bit prior. I'd be so happy if they got Jalen Kilgore, because I think it gives you another chess piece, a guy that could play outside. He can play in the slot, and I think he's a guy that can push Tayakata, that could come in and really give Tayakata a run for that safety position there if they want to really truly keep Nick down in the box where he's been playing as basically the Sam linebacker. Kayron Crawford is another mid to late round edge I'm interested in out of Auburn. He's got a lot of, the power to him that I saw it a lot at Senior Bowl, where it was like, okay, you've got plan A really well done. You got a little bit of a plan B. It's something that needs to be more refined, but you can definitely set an edge. He's a bigger edge. He's got some good athletic traits to him. So he's another guy that I like. Running back wise, this is one of the guys I think that's the most intriguing out of the running back class. And that's Adam Randall out of Clemson. 6'3", 235, was a 4-star receiver coming into Clemson and then transitioned to running back. His pad level can get down. He's a bigger running back for sure. I'd say he's more 6'2" than he is 6'3", to be honest. But he doesn't shy away from contact. But what I like about him is the versatility of moving him into the receiving game. I think he'd come in and be immediately Seattle's best receiving back. And he's a guy I don't think you have to spend anything higher than a 5th-round pick on if you don't want to. I don't see him being up in the top 4 rounds of this draft where people are like, yeah, I got to grab Adam Randall. It's more of a, oh, hey, we were able to sneakily grab this guy in the, 5th or 6th or whatever, and stash him on our roster, and he develops into being, your third down running back potentially, that gives you a little bit more in the run game than the typical third down back. Interior lineman here is Sam Heckett, who's out of Kansas State. I think he's potentially the best center, along with Logan Jones there in this group in the zone scheme fit. I think he can also play guard. That's the other thing with him. I think you get that versatility. And I think if you were to walk out of this draft, Brandon, with either Heckett here or Jones, Olu's a trade piece and becomes an instant battle in camp with one of these guys, because they just fit the scheme better. They're more athletic. They know the scheme. So he's one of my more intriguing guys. And then the last corner I got on this list is a guy that I really liked at Mobile, and that's Chandler Rivers out of Duke. I think he's a little bit shorter. He's about 5'10", but he's a guy that I saw play outside there. He can play up in the press. He can play in the off zone. He can play inside if you need him to. He, I think, is, to the point of versatility, a guy that Mike McDonald will fall in love with. He's smart. He's instinctual. He's got good character. And he's probably one of my favorite prospects on this list, as a guy that I think Seattle, again, could get in the mid-round. You don't have to spend a high pick on him, but he's a guy you could get in the third, fourth, or fifth round, and you're going to be happy because he's going to be able to come in and play some, significant snaps for you.
Yeah, he definitely could be a plug-in guy in the rotation and fit right into where sort of the roll into the defense. At that point, I could easily see that. He's a good player. He was. I thought he stood out in our Senior Bowl, where there's a lot of players that always stood out. It was a lot of guys that kind of ran together a little bit. So it's tough on that one. You'll have to probably sell me a little bit on Emma Johnson. I don't think he's a bad player. I've got him fairly well high. Another kind of guy, though, is that 1.6 range with the 200-pound combination that he's kind of bringing. Another kind of a long-legged running back as well, a little bit with what he brings. I struggle with him on kind of quite the fit, but he's a good back, and he's one of the better running back prospects in this draft. So don't get me wrong there. It's just back to that. I'm looking for, and maybe I'm being a little bit too even militant on this, but I am looking for a little bit of that, hard line fit. I don't want to force guys in. Like I said, look, defense is completely opposite, but offense, I'm a little bit more of, I want the square peg, square hole, square peg, square hole. I don't want to be jamming it on in there. I do like the guy, Randall. I was going to ask you on him. My comp for him, I know everybody wants to go Derrick Henry a little bit because it's easy and it's kind of,
size-wise, yes.
Upright running style. I went to a former Seahawk on him a little bit, of Chris Warren.
Okay, I don't know if it'll be literally who popped into my head when you said former Seahawk. I had two thoughts in my mind. If you didn't say former Seahawk, one that came into my mind as well was Darren McFadden out of Arkansas. He's got a little bit of a similar running style, but as soon as you said former Seahawk, Chris Warren is the one that popped right into my head.
Yeah, they got the ironing board up their back a little bit, but it doesn't. They make it work. It's like, you want the pad level to be good. You want guys to run by their pads, but there's all different types. That's the thing about running backs. Different styles, different types. It's different. I mean, Derrick Henry in certain ways shouldn't kind of work. He's kind of more of a finesse back than he is really a power back. And this guy's the same way. And that's where I think the comp's kind of fair, where it's, he's not necessarily a power back, but what he does is a finesse guy. And once he gets up to open speed and you come up and you tackle him, that's where that guy at that size, at that speed now becomes power. And people think about power, I think, in short spaces and being grinders and, but there's the power too of, I'm in the open field at 230 running full steam and you're coming from a side angle and you're about to bounce off of me like a speed bump, and that's what you do see from on the tape at times.
So the thing with Randall that when I watched his tape, immediately I went, okay, you could probably get this guy in the 5th round, but he could really, truly unlock your screen game as a running back. He is the type of guy where he's quick enough, even at that size, to catch and go. He was a receiver coming out, so he doesn't lose quick twitch. And to your point, all I envisioned was like him going down the sideline and some safety trying to tackle him. It's like, good luck in the open field taking this guy down in one shot. Like you're hoping you just hit him at the right point and he can just gets tripped up enough that a bunch of other guys can catch up to him. But both of those lists, Brandon, what I really liked is they very much feel like even the guys that we were kind of like, like you'd have to kind of sell me. It's not like, wow, these are a very far departure from what we think the Seahawks are looking for and the type of players they've been after. Like even with the running backs, it's like, to your point, we're being a little bit stickler and militant on the, hey, we really want to see this out of them. But other than that, they're a really good running back that still would fit into the scheme well enough to contribute and be a factor in it.
Yeah, I can still see and understand the vision, and you'd like pure fit. Sometimes you got to just also, if you love the player, you love the player, and that can supersede some of that. So That's always the part that's the uncertainty when they're looking at it versus how we're looking at it, where it's like some of this could be the background you got on guys and the character stuff you're getting. And this guy's a leader. This guy's was a captain. And, you do have a locker room that's you built that's all about ball and that has guys that are truly indoctrinated in their spirit in that way. And you're wanting to add more guys that are also in that manner, not just from a lip service standpoint, but truly that way.
I agree. So, Brandon, let's move over here to the free agency recap. Obviously, there was a little bit of news today with what we thought we had done in free agency, but overall for you, it's kind of wrapped up now. The free agency frenzy, as NFL Network likes to table it as, it went quick, it went fast, it was gone. We did a Seahawks Syndicate show, and it was practically wrapped up by then. Now that you've had a chance to digest it a little bit more over the weekend, everything, how do you feel the job John Schneider did in free agency with the limited time that he had and what he kind of prioritized? Did it line up for you exactly how you felt it should have gone?
Yeah, because this is going to be a free agent period where you have to take your medicine. And people don't have to like this. You can get frustrated by it, but the frustration doesn't change the reality. You win the Super Bowl, your players are going to be overpriced. And if you have a variety of guys up that are due to be paid, they're going to be paid at a big price. And how you roll with that is you can do one of two things. You can get sentimental and you can say, well, we got to run it back for the sake of running it back. And there's a lot of boring, unimaginative, play it safe organizations out there that would have done just that. But John and what he's doing, in my opinion, would be interested to hear where you're coming from, Bryce, is operating in the same manner by which brought you a Super Bowl victory. And that's a really important point to me, that this isn't a differentiation of what you've done prior in the recent last couple of years. This is in alignment with what you've done in prior couple of years. So I'm completely at peace with what he's done. I anticipated that this is what he's done. I think it's gone exactly to plan. I don't think that there's been any part of this offseason that's hit them from out of left field. I don't think that they're shocked at some of the contracts being given out. I think he knew very well that it could go this way. So I'm glad that he's not gotten sentimental or deviated from the approach that just brought us to Super Bowl. Because I think in part, what led you to not be able to go back and get Super Bowls after you got the first one back to back was that you did start to separate. Started to be about drafts not being about value. Now you're reaching for need. Started to be about paying everybody and not making any hard decisions at any point in time, operating like the 49ers have been. It's not the proper approach. You got to be a little cutthroat.
No, I agree with you. I'm okay. I've been happy with it. I thought you did a good job of filling in the back end of your roster, which you needed to do, and hedging against the draft, which John has done a good job at. So you're not, again, to the point we made earlier, you're not having to draft for need. You can just let the board fall, take the best player available. If it's reinforcing a strength you already have, great. If it lines up with a need you have, great. You're not in this sense of we're giving a whole bunch, and like you said, taking your medicine. Like, we just won the freaking Super Bowl. I think in a lot of people's minds, and I know between myself and Dan and the rest of the we think it was a year ahead of time. Like, we thought this team was going to be good. We didn't expect them to win the Super Bowl this year. We thought next year is, hey, the window's now open. Well, now we're in that window. We are in the Super Bowl window, but John's not, I think, doing a good job. I think John's doing a good job of not living in the year-to-year mindset. He's still playing with the 3-year plan. Hey, we're still in year 2 of this 3-year plan. We're not in year 3 yet. So, hey, let's get to year 3 and see what happens in year 3 and year 4 and reset it 3 years out. Because if you start living in that year-to-year plan, you start making bad deals in free agency. You start getting to that, hey, we got to draft for need. We can't let the best player fall to us. We've got to rearrange our board. And to your point, that's what happened, I think, last time. And this is where John has gotten something I think not a lot of GMs get. He's gotten truly a second chance in a very similar situation, a young ascending football team with a run game, with a defense that's elite. And the only difference is the quarterback's not on a rookie deal. He's on a little bit more of an expensive deal, but you still have him on a very good contract. And I think a player where I don't see Sam Darnold coming to Seattle, even at contract extension talks, which I think will maybe start at the end of this year, I don't see him coming to Seattle being, I need to be the highest paid quarterback in the league, because I think Sam's has such self-awareness of where he has gotten to and what has led him to the success that he might do what kind of Tom did in New England for a lot of those years. Hey, pay the other pieces around me, pay the JSNs. I need him to catch the football. I need Charles Cross and Abe Lucas to block for me. I need Witherspoon and Byron Murphy and these guys on defense to, stop the other team and get me the turnovers and ease some of this pressure on me, because we kind of saw the experiment when Sam had to throw it consistently in some games 40 times. It's not a great result. Sam lives in that 25 to 30 attempts a game with a successful run game, and he's, leads us to a Super Bowl. So for me, I'm all on board with what John Schneider's done, and I'm actually kind of excited to see what he does in the draft.
And let's face it, he's not done yet. So I think those are all really good. I think those are all really good points, and I don't have a lot to add on top of it other than that I agree. And it's that I think that you're going to add more onto this team. We're not a done state of things. And I think to the point you made about him learning lessons, just imagine about all those sleepless nights, 17 and 18 and 19. And I should have done this with that. I shouldn't have done that thing to that. Man, God, what was I thinking? If I only had another chance to do that again, I would have done it this way and that way. And then you have a couple of years later, you run into a situation where you're able to do that very thing. So it's not like Legion of Boom ends, this starts right up afterwards. You've got this dark period of self-reflection that had to have happened at that time. There was no doubt. I mean, you were close at times to, potentially starting quarterback trying to push to try to get you and the coach out of town to get him to remain. So, I think he's had an opportunity to do this. And I think it's going to work in his favor so well because this is what wisdom gives you, is a chance to rectify mistakes, correct, and just evolve. I've been a kind of a John Stan recently, not just because he's won the Super Bowl, because this is what he's been doing and operating, is that he's doing smart decisions that have been a lot of times corrections from things that he hadn't been doing right prior. And it wasn't that he'd been doing everything wrong across the board prior. It's just the things that you were getting wrong consistently, like reaching for need in the draft, have been fully 100% rectified.
So a little bit of breaking news, which I don't think is going to be totally breaking news to a lot of people, but Adam Schefter is reporting the Seahawks have just exercised the fifth-year options on both JSN and Devin Witherspoon, and he labeled it with a precursor to bigger deals. So we know these two are going to get their extensions, but now the fifth-year option has been exercised, so they're both under contract for next year as well, which we all kind of knew was going to happen. It was just a matter of time of when that lever was going to get pulled to hit the extension. Well, it's been hit.
Yeah, and the contract extensions will come down in June or July. So if you're looking for the timeline on this, that's when those will both get clicked in by that point.
Just like Abe Lucas this last year. That's where I've kind of figured, I've circled it in my head going, hey, Abe Lucas's extension last year is going to be about the same time we hear about Devin Witherspoon's and JSN's contract extensions this year, which will be just before the season starts. They'll work through the entire offseason after the draft. John will sit down with Joey Lane and they'll start hammering those out. But let's pivot here, Brandon, and let's look at our division. Because our division was the best division realistically in football. We know the NFC Championship game really kind of was the Super Bowl. How did you feel the rest of the division handled free agency? And did it change any of your opinions on those teams going into next year on where they may be in the grand scheme of things when it comes to the NFC and the NFL?
Well, I think starting off from the bottom to the top, I guess, the Cardinals, I thought, both did the right thing, and they are going to be weaker for it. And that's good. You have to embrace the tank. And I think what stands out so far in free agency is there's a couple teams, the Dolphins, the Jets, that are showing signs. I think the Dolphins with the Malik contract kind of reverse pivot on this one a bit. And I have information I can't divulge because it's been given me from somebody else about the Cardinals quarterback situation that would just make you your head spin a little bit about their own kind of approach. But that being said, I like that they've embraced the tank. This team wasn't going to do any moves this offseason collectively that was going to even take them into the playoffs, much less be a division winner. So if that's the case, know where you stand, know what you need to fix. They've not really made any major signings. They've kept the cap down. They ate the Kyler Murray contract 100% without the post-June 1st designation to split it up into next year, meaning it's fully freed up by next year's cap. So everything they've done, I think, is the proper thing, including not just going for broke for a quarterback. Now they just have to not take Ty Simpson with the third overall selection or trade back to 10 and take Ty Simpson, some silly stuff like that. But they're the Cardinals, dude. They're going to beef it at some point, right? No matter how cool they look going down the skateboard, down the hill, at some point or another, that it's going to end up in a piling, rubbly heap. They just can't help themselves. And so we'll see where that goes. But they're going to be like a 4-win team next year because of this, 3-win team next year because of this, in my opinion. The Niners, I think, are a fence-sitting team to me. They can't decide which side they want to sit on. They can't decide whether they want to go for it or whether they kind of want to sit in the cut. They want to have 1 year where they eat $100 million, yet now they're already up at $40 million of dead money. And then they've got a Trent Williams contract thing coming in. And then they got the Brandon Ayuk thing that's going to come in down the line on top of that money. So now you're back into the same pickle here again this year, while at the same point in time, you're signing an older receiver on the free agent market, which historically speaking has not been the smartest. You got the Cowboys who loved Oza so much, were so enamored by him that they went on and got Ryan Clark and Quinnen Williams over the last year to replace him. And that's the Cowboys. I mean, it's not, these aren't bad guys. They aren't bad additions. I love the Dre Greenlaw move, quite frankly. I think that's phenomenal. But even that one, you're still like, you're bearing void your money and stuff. Like they're just like there's the car that was like in the 70s that's cool. And now we're in the modern era and they're still trying to like soup it up and put on like hydraulics and give it NOS. And it's like, dude, it's still a, it's still got a carburetor. It's still old as shit, dude. It's still old. You
still gotta hit it with
that's
hammer.
rusty, man. That's rusty, bro.
You got to hit it with the wrench on the carburetor just to get it going again when it's
seriously. Like, yeah, it's like, look at my rims though, man. They keep spinning. Look at them. They're spinning. It's like, yeah, but I mean, you gotta kick it with your leg every time. Like it just doesn't quite sync up to me, their plan of attack. And I don't know if really this is one where, to me, I'll tell you this, I get this sense now. I don't know who's baking the cake upstairs in San Francisco. And I think what you're getting is like,
same feeling. Yeah.
I think we're getting a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And this is where we come down to like, this is why it sucks. This is why you don't do that type of stuff. You let your general manager, you let your coach. You designate and delineate. If anything, everything's becoming more specialized, not overlapping. So that thing seems to be a little bit of that. I don't trust in what they've done is going to take them. Now they've gotten a little older. We'll see with San Francisco. The Rams, I like what they've done. It's for the same reason what the Cardinals did on the other side of it. I always say, I know I beat this to death, but teams are in 4 different states. You're rebuilding, you're ascending, you're stuck in purgatory, or you're elite. You got to first, before you do anything in an offseason, determine where you stand, which state you're in, to then make the right moves based on that. Because too many teams think they're this, but they're that, or they're this, but they're this. And so in their case, you're elite. You're this close to a Super Bowl. Stafford's maybe got another year, maybe 2 at best. So you better just maximize this now to the utmost as much as you can. And they've done so. And that means when you're going to do that you are taking the price for down the road, that you are saying, okay, we're taking more from tomorrow for today to make this happen. And to that point, I don't knock him for doing it. Smart of them to do it. I don't know if I would have given McDuffie a, position setting contract after I just traded a first round pick for him. That one makes me pucker a little bit on that one, but I will say that I understand why they did it and it's not a bad move. And they are going to be a stronger team for it, for what they've done so far. And they very well might not be done at this point.
No, I can't argue with anything that you said there, Brandon. It pretty much aligns up with what I've thought. I think the Cardinals are finally doing the right thing. They're finally kind of eating their vegetables, even though they've tried to avoid it by, stuffing the food in their cheeks like a chipmunk and sitting at the dinner table going, hey, can I kind of just, not eat these and go, throw my napkin out that I've coughed conveniently into. Now they're finally sitting there at the table and going, okay, I've got to eat these. Like it's going to be good for me in the long run. I got to eat my vegetables at the table. I think the 49ers, to your point, are they need to fall like Humpty Dumpty on one side of this fence or not. That's where they need to go. They either embrace, because I think one of 2 things is going to happen. They're either going to fall on the side of they're going to luck into some good health success and kind of allow them to think that they're closer than they are and maybe get farther in the playoffs this year. And maybe they push for an NFC championship game because things line up perfectly and the Rams are hit with the injury bug or something like that comes into the picture for them. I just think this is now really a 2-team race in this division between the Rams and the Seahawks. And the Rams went out and made some significant additions, I think, to close the gap with the Seahawks, where the Seahawks are sitting there going, we haven't had to make any significant additions. Yes, we've lost some players that we kind of expected to lose. Nobody that Seattle lost in free agency was I shocked by. I expected, we all talked about it on Syndicate and on our own shows. Kobe Bryant, Boye Mafe, Reek Wolin, Ken Walker, we were all like, yeah, they're probably all gone. Like when Kobe couldn't get his deal done at the same time of Abe Lucas, I went, if he has a good year, he's probably gone. And all those guys I expected to lose. And then you saw other guys come in. And I don't think John was sitting there going, I can't believe we lost all 4 of these players. John's probably sitting there going, okay, here's contingency plan A and contingency plan B. This is how we're going to roll going forward. And this is what our plan is. And you saw that with, hey, we got Rashid Shaheed back. We got, some of the other players back. We brought in some other talent. So I look at this and go, the Rams are now chasing us in some ways, in my opinion, to close that gap. And when you talked about the 4 layers, I still think Seattle's ascending. I don't think we've topped out yet.
No, well, I do think we're elite at this point, Super Bowl winning. We bust, but we're almost still in that ascending mode because of how youthful our roster is, and that's the part I think that people forget about with this is that the third youngest roster in the NFL from last year going into now this next year is going to have natural progression to it. Doesn't mean those losses, which to your back to your point, these were contributing factor kind of players. Yeah, Kobe was kind of a starter, split a little bit of it with Okada. You can make the argument Okada played a little bit better. Julian Love is a more irreplaceable piece as a safety right there, kind of by far. And same thing with Boye Mafe. I think people have spoken about that one. It's like, I've heard, it's not more than the Seahawks fans, it's more outsiders. It's like, you guys lost a starter there. It's like, what world are we operating in here? Starter? The guy 2 sacks, like stuff has been so overstated. Yeah, the 2 sacks, and it's been so overstated with some of this stuff where you're just like Woolen, where it's like, okay, yeah, Woolen's got some good stuff on tape, but it's not a pure starter. And if Josh Job's 100% healthy and Witherspoon's 100% healthy and Eamon Warrior's 100% healthy throughout this year, that man might not see the field, but in dime situations last year. So like that's far from losing a starter at that point. You're losing a contributing player, a guy that added value, but it doesn't mean you can't. You can replace contributors. It's the starters, it's the stars, it's the difference makers. These are the ones that you're going to have a hard time to me getting over the top of.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, what would you grade it out? Give me your A, B, C. You're a teacher right now, Brandon. What are you giving your A, B, C, and D to?
So I will give the Cardinals an A, though if they had done the thing that I know that they would have done on the other wins, it would have dropped it to an F. To tell you about, just animate a little bit what they could have done, which would have been just like wild. But I will give them an A because they've stand pat and they're not doing nothing wild, and they ate the Kyler contract. I love that. But this also has to operate with like what you could do theoretically. Like, you can't be like, well, they didn't create the Super Bowl. They couldn't have created a Super Bowl roster this offseason. They couldn't have gotten their quarterback this offseason, really. So I'll give them an A. I will give the Niners I'm going to give the Niners a C because you still have the Trent Williams crap that's sitting there. You're going to pay him, or then you're going to release him, and then it's Vendarian Low, and then what? You're going to be drifted into the draft to have to take a tackle because you guys do pick for need down there in San Francisco in the draft. That is kind of a thing you do. And then on top of that, you also have the Ayuk situation. It's like there's so much drama on that team, dude. It's like an unnecessarily so. They're operating with this Brandon Ayuk situation that has no upside to them, no win to them. And yet they're going to just hold on to him because they're bitter about it. And they want to limit his options that he can go out there and sign, hopefully limiting him going to the Washington Commanders because for some godforsaken reason, they want to keep that from happening.
Yeah. Let him go.
I don't get it.
Bye. See you later.
Yeah. Just eat it. Like when we had Percy Harvin, like we traded a first and a third round pick and then gave him money. We did more than you guys did with Brandon Ayuk. We didn't sit there for the next 3 years and go, hey, why is he being such a problematic thing in this locker room? We said, all right, bye. We'll eat it and own it. That's the risk of taking NFL contracts on. Stuff can blow up in your face, and it will blow up in your face. So own it. But that's the Niners. They don't own anything. They just keep like trying to find their way to get around stuff rather than kind of owning up to like what is the reality of things. That's just another example. So I'm a B minus, maybe a C plus, because okay, look, you did help your roster. I like the Greenlaw signing. I can't deny that. I think that, if he's healthy and he's next to Warner and Warner's healthy, that really changes the scope of their defense, I think, in a major way. And then with the Rams, I would probably go A minus just because the McDuffie contract does make me go, okay, look, now you give McDuffie out. Now you have Kobe Turner. Now you got Avila. Now you got Puka Nacua. Now you got Byron Young. So all of your cap space is gone that's remaining. That was what you had. You shot your shot. You blew your wad. We, on the other hand, have our shots still fully. Our guns still loaded. It's like that last John Wick guns. Last John Wick movie where he's having the face off with the guy. Did you see that? And they both fire their last shot. And then the bad guy comes up and he's like, the guy got shot and he's like, oh, I got you now. And he's like, you dumb bastard. He hasn't even fired yet. And I feel like we're John Wick in there with the bullet. Like we haven't fired the shot yet. And we're just getting ready to put our kind of John's masterclass of this off season for that guy to become available that nobody thinks becomes available. Be it the Crosby guy, or I don't know if the Grenard thing makes as much sense to me because I think there's some complicated aspects to that deal that just don't seem to align to me on that quite as much, but some kind of deal. I've kept making the argument, I don't know if you feel the same way, that a deal is coming at some point. And some of this is I don't know what it's going to materialize to be. I can give you names of this right now, but it's oftentimes those guys we're not thinking about, we're not talking about, that guy became available. Like there's no way that guy became available. And it just oftentimes every year seems to happen. It's just, do you have the, as John says, powder dry to pull the move when it jumps?
It was interesting because I can't remember if it was Albert Breer, Brandon, or if it was Ian Rappaport made a comment that Mike McDonald and John Schneider, when it was talking to the point of trades and a trade potentially coming and Seattle doing something, tend to zig when everybody else is zagging. And that made me think, to your point, I think there is a trade coming. I don't think they're necessarily done, but this trade may not even happen till training camp. It may not happen until that period of time when we get into there that something becomes available because after the draft, some team decides they're going to move off somebody because somebody's flashed in the first couple weeks of camp and okay, we're getting this money. And this is going to be, I think, teams that are trying to clear cap space because of the 2027 class coming in, because they need to make room for something else. And John, to your point, has cash to burn, as you put on your show title yesterday, and has that opportunity to go and do something that someone else can't because he's sitting there going, yeah, I can go and do that. I'm not restricted by my salary cap right now and cash that I have because I didn't go and spend it on everything that flashed in the store window to me. And, it's always that thing as a kid, right? You're walking by the store window, you see the shiny thing, you're like, I want that. And then it's not until you really get into the store and look around that there's like 10 or 6 or whatever other things you'd rather have in that store than what you saw in the window. But some people just jump at that initial thing they see and go, yeah, I've got to have it. And then they end up regretting it after.
I always say I think it's fear-based decision-making that often drives a lot of NFL organizations. And so what I think happens is that they look at roster building as something that happens in March and April, and that the rest of the year, it's a necessary evil when I have to face it. I want the warm and fuzzy of getting into June and July and saying, I've done my job, my roster's set, I don't have to worry about anything. I don't have any a plate still spinning out there that I got to take care of or that I still need. And I think John's realized that's a market opportunity, that I can take advantage of this syndrome that exists throughout the league amongst these general managers. And I can come in and I can jump on trades. I mean, thinking about what you got Shaheed for now. I mean, even the time 4th and 5th round pick, but now you're back into the 4th, 5th round pick. And even that now is a steal utterly in retrospect. And I think you go along through a lot of his deals, even the 2nd round pick that looked like a lot in the moment as well for Leonard Williams. That seemed like so much to give up. Looks like a steal in retrospect. And it is. Not just looks like, it is. The Quandary Diggs deal, steal. Carlos Dunlap deal, steal. Now you got some bad ones like Jamal Adams one on the other side, but we can make an argument that there were some other factors impacting that decision that weren't just pure simple John. Maybe just a few. So I have a lot of confidence because not only does he have the track record, not only does he have the means to get it done, but that he has the intentionality to do it. Unknown factor, I mentioned this in yesterday's show, but just worth mentioning again here. You weren't just looking to do the Shaheed trade. This is the part where maybe people go, well, we're just going to make one trade. Like that's what you tell me, Brandon. We're going to save all this money and then we just got one deal we're going to do. Whoop-de-doo. The Rams down there, what's that supposed to do for me? We lose all these guys and you make one trade. Well, I go, what about multiple deals? What about if you had added both Shaheed and Crosby last year? You imagine what that would have created as far as electricity goes all the way around. And you got by and you want to see, we come back to like you did everything a year ahead of time. You ever did everything without having to put it over the top. But it doesn't mean that John doesn't have an intention to put it over the top by what he wants to try to do, right? He's not trying to go up to that line, which would have been the Shaheed trade last year to say, oh, let's go up to this line. No, you were trying to go fully to Crosby. They just didn't, they backed off at the last second and got like a bride running away from the, what do they say that when they run away from the
bride,
altar?
bride.
Right. They had him right. Yes, you'd walk the Raiders all the way up with Crosby, right? Like he was handing off his daughter. He was just about to give her away and then he ripped her free and ran her back down the other way.
Exactly. Well, Brandon, with all of this talk and what we've, discussed throughout the show, let's actually get into a mock draft. And we're going to use Pro Football Network Simulator there. I think it's the best one currently out on the market. They've done a lot of upgrades to it, which has been an enjoyment. And if the first draft doesn't go very well, Brandon, we will quickly do another one. So I'm going to bring it up on the screen here. So let's go. Here we go. And we'll leave the comments on and whatnot. But I've already got it queued up. We're going to use the PFSN player list. It seems to be one of the better ones. I've got it set on fast, so it'll move rather quickly. So yeah, let's kick this off and we'll see how it goes. And we can trade in this, Brandon. So if you like a trade, let me know and we'll take a look, but we'll see who's there. Okay. So trades pop up first. Colts want 47 and they'll give us 47, 113 for our 32nd. I'm not sure I'm comfortable dropping that far down the draft board. The Rams want to trade with us. Oh, like that would ever happen in a real situation. So yeah, we're not gonna either. We'll come back to those, but this is who went off the board in round 1. So Mendoza, Ruben Bain Jr., Sonny Styles, Jeremiah Love. To your point, right there at that number 4, that Tennessee Titan window. David Bailey, Carnell Tate, Moaga, Reese, Tyson, Downs, Delaney, McCoy, Lomu, Tiananmen, Falk, Woods, Freeling, McDonald, Lemon, Mesidor, Fano. One of my favorite guard prospects is right there, who the Chargers took, but I don't think he'll unfortunately be there for us.
I think they're taking him or Pregnon. It's one of those two there for them.
Exactly. And so then Proctor's gone. We've got Cooper, Miller, Parker, Avion Terrell went all the way down to 29, Chris Bell, and then Christian Miller. So what do you want to look at first here, Brandon, for you? Where are you feeling trade? Do you want to trade back, or are you feeling look at the board and what position?
Let's just do a general scroll down on the board for what we've got as far as the top picks here to get an idea. So we've got Denzel Boston there, Chris Johnson. We've got our assembly of cornerbacks in there.
Pregnon's there.
Pregnon's there. I think Pregnon is more of a left guard than I think he's going to be a right guard. Caleb Banks is on there. That's interesting. Boy, you got a lot of good names. I'll tell you what, if it goes this first round, John's going to be in a pickle. I would honestly be a little bit open to moving back just because I think I don't have a definable name right here. If I look at the defense, for instance, we talk about those cornerbacks, go to the cornerback, and we're talking about fitting to like guys being right around the same spot. And you can see that this thing's got basically those same guys we talked about, like we just spoke about. Right there, including D'Angelo Pons, who I think the team has met with and has some interest in. So you go, okay, well, the cornerback room still looks okay here. I can, at the very least, if I trade back, I can come back to getting one of these guys that I feel very similar to. Yeah, let's take a look at the edge. If I was to make an argument here, even Zion Young, I've got all my edges we talked about. Danny Dennis Sutton, Derek Moore still on this list. As far as options go. Don't think Hal's going to be a guy, man. You're going to have to talk me into that. I don't see how a 30-inch arm guy on this with not the power of a Bane is going to work, because he's a take the edge guy. But the linebacker position, this is where this would get hard and test John out, because I could see John running into where Anthony Hill is the highest rated linebacker he's got on his board at this pick and is available. And that's going to put the value system to a test here, because there's these other positions like corner that you could say is a little more needy. But that's where John and I could see being like with a guy like Hill checking the boxes he checks, where it's like, yeah, but we like this guy a little bit more. Offensively wise, so go ahead.
Running back, well, I was going to say, so the running back on offense, so Washington's still there, Johnson, Price, Jonah Coleman, Allen, Claiborne, Kalen Black, who's a guy I actually liked at Senior Bowl quite a bit.
Me too.
Adam Randall, like that whole group of running backs is still there. Offensive guard. So
take a look at Dunkers there, but I got there. That's the one I want to see. That was good. That's the right one.
So even Cage Casey's another guy that I like. Rutledge is there. So let's look at a trade back. So we saw that the Colts are offering 47. Let's have a look here. And if I counter, I can usually go back. Houston's an interesting team to me to potentially move back with, because they've got pick 38. So we're dropping 6 spots. So we get pick 32, pick 38, and maybe pick 106. That gives us
give you 60. See if they give you 69. They won't give you 69. No, 106 is right, probably. No.
Yeah, 106 is probably, and then take out 69. So that gives us another pick in that range.
Let's do that. So, let's just do that because we need another pick in this draft. So let's do it.
Okay.
I just don't feel like we're losing a lot on the,
and the value's basically there. So, okay, there we go. Houston's traded. All right, so Green Bay's come to us with an offer. I don't like that offer, to be honest. It's us losing more picks. So, so we got Bisnatis went, Concepcion, Pons, Boston, Pregnon, and CJ Allen.
Let's go to all.
You've got all the corners basically are still there pretty much that we talked about. Do you think it's a running back or a corner here?
I wouldn't go running back here myself.
Yeah.
I'm drawn between either cornerback or dunker here, but that's part of my affinity for dunker in this spot too. Because when you do look at cornerback, there's a lot of guys here you can get later on theoretically. Maybe they're not going to have quite the talent of Cisse or Hood or Johnson, but Abney, Julian Neal, Keontae Scott. I think if you scroll down even a little bit more, there's still a couple other guys even down on that board that aren't, Malik McDonald. Yeah, there's a couple of guys here.
Rivers
so it's like
is there. Massis is still there.
I don't know that I'm getting a dunker offensive lineman talent later on. That's kind of my theory with this a little bit.
Where do we go?
Edge. Edge is one where I like Zion Young, but and that's certainly not a bad spot to be taking him necessarily. But do I like that over the thought of the impact that I think that a dunker would bring to the offensive line, which is an every down type of player, versus a guy like Zion Young that's more of a rotational, going to take time to develop kind of guy. Anthony Hill's another guy here. I'm going to let you make the pick of this. I mean, any of those that I'll throw you some names, and you got to pick the one out because I'm like Sophie's Choice over here. It's like
I know
is it going to be the daughter? Is it going to be the son? Not my child. I don't know, man. I'm really pulled back here on this one because I like all of these guys in a major way. I mean, these are my affinity. You saw them, man. These guys are my affinity. It's like this is all basically just a list of my guys here in the second round.
Rutledge,
our guys, basically collectively all of our guys. So it's like it's hard.
Okay, so our next pick will be pick 64. So we're right there, back of round 2. Let's go dunker here.
All right, dunker it is.
All right, we'll see how the rest of this board shapes up.
Oh, damn it. Look at those corners go. Look at those corners fly off the board.
So Minnesota's
off screwed ourselves.
We can do another one. We'll do another one to make up for the dunker trade. This is the world if dunker goes. So
we got dunkered.
Hood went, Young went, Chris Johnson
worst case scenario, Bryce. Just say worst case scenario.
Literally the worst case. Cisse went. Oh God. Abney went. Stukes went. Like holy crap. What was this?
All right, embrace the suck. Let's get back to value, dude. Let's get back to value here a little bit.
Pick 64. I think it's either running back or edge here. I think is where we got to pivot to on this one.
All right, let's take a look at our running back situation. Okay, edge, Sutton's there, Moore's there. We could flip a coin on those two guys.
Crawford's there. So Romello Height's another guy that I'm interested in. He was a guy, obviously, at Senior Bowl that stood out to me with his athletic traits. He'd be a rotational guy, but he's a guy. Let's go look at the running backs. So Mike Washington's still there. Johnson, Price. I think we got to take a running back here because who knows if we miss this, it might go massive run on the running back spot all of a sudden.
Yeah, if you're not getting a running back here, by the time you come back to next round, your best case is probably going to be Katron Allen.
Yeah.
I'm more Mike Washington for the pure fit. It's going to break a lot of Hawk fans' hearts if we go that way because I know a lot of Jadarian seems to be the flavor of the month.
Does the fumbling issue have you concerned at all with him?
Not really, because how many running backs in the NFL recently do we really have an epidemic of an issue with fumbles?
True.
I mean, there's a couple of guys you can maybe mention, but even those guys you've also found let me give you, for instance, Ramondre Stevenson, 3 years ago had like 5 fumbles and got it back down to 2 this year, So
right.
the guy has 300 touches in the year and 2 fumbles. Is that a deal breaker for me to make him a pick? No, it'd be nice to have it none. And we've gotten spoiled with our backs here recently, but he's such a pure fit from the explosive side, size, speed, explosiveness.
So I will give you this. Do we propose a trade maybe with the Titans or Raiders, move back and try and collect another pick? Because after this, our next pick isn't until pick 96. Because there are enough running backs, I feel like we can fall back a little bit. So let's try and move with good old our friend Clint Kubiak there and see if we can give him pick 64 for 67 and 117. It'll let me click. Oh, no, maybe 134. Okay, 175. It'll give us. So that gives us another pick. I'm okay with that. So let's propose that. Pretty good value across the board. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, Minnesota. Okay, interesting. Okay, so there's a 4-pick drop again. and we're picking up another pick here. So we'll hold on that Minnesota one. So no running backs went. Do we drop down to where that was with that pick, or do we hold?
Sure.
Because it'd be right.
Drop. You're probably going to see a couple backs out. But it's fine if it happens that way.
Let's see. We get another pick here. So
yeah, just do that one.
Okay, Cincinnati, I'm not interested in your offer, and Houston, neither with yours. So they went up, took Ted Hurt. No running. Oh, Mike Washington, the pick before. God damn.
Get cute. That's what happens, man.
Yeah. All right. So where are we going here? Who are you feeling with? Do you feel Price? Do you feel Coleman?
I'd go with Price over that collection.
Okay. So we'll take Jadarian Price here. All right. Well, one pick. They couldn't have taken Price instead. Like, come on. All right. So we're on the board again here. I want to take a look at the corners now. So now we're getting thin in corner. Now we've got to, I think, take somebody in the corner group, edge group. Danny Dennis Sutton still there. Derek Moore still there. Barham's still there. Crawford's still there. Height. Like, there's still some good players. Even Vincent Anthony Jr. is a guy I kind of like there. And Mason Rieger out of Wisconsin. Do we go corner here?
Let's go back to all real quick, see where our value's at.
So it's kind of the receivers and then edge and then corner.
Yeah, I guess the corner does make some sense. I'm not seeing a guy that blows me up the value. I mean, Danny Dennis Sutton is obviously the guy to me that has the best pure value there. But you are going more project there, I think, as far as
so we do have pick 106 coming up. So
where's 106?
Yeah, so we could.
All right, yeah, let's go Danny Dennis Sutton and let's risk it because I think even the corners that we would get as alternatives wouldn't be that crazily bad to the other side of it.
And even Massis is another guy that I like out of Cal there. So we go Danny Dennis
me too.
Sutton. Okay, so here we go.
So then you got Chandler. Now you got Chandler Rivers or Massis. I like Rivers a little bit more.
So do I. I do as well.
Derek Moore's on the board still too. We can get more in. Well, we don't need it, but Chandler Rivers. Let's go with. He's safe. There's a lot of safety in Chandler Rivers here.
Okay, so we'll take Chandler Rivers. All right, and we'll see how the rest of this. Ooh, Bud Clark's a guy that I do like as well.
Oh yeah.
But he's more that versatile, like a Kilgore kind of guy. There's your go. Wheatley just went off the board. All right, so let's go back and look at our all here. Okay, so Logan Jones is there.
Let's go, dude. Like, let's scroll down, but let's scroll down. But this is value all the way, baby. This is value. Scroll down, but that'd be
Barham's another guy that I like to double up on the edge group if we needed to. Crawford's still there. Jake Slaughter, Farmer. Like, there's some good interior linemen. Let's look at linebacker, actually. So our linebacker, Daniels, Kelly, Murdoch, Barton. I
safety.
I like
Bryce can't cover. They're going to need a linebacker to cover, though. True.
So VJ Payne's a guy that I do like out of Kansas State. He stood out to me actually at Senior Bowl quite a bit.
I'd go with I'm all about value, man. That's the value Logan there in the 5th round. That's outstanding value to get a guy that could be maybe your heir apparent there at center position. So,
and then you basically just be flopping in a few years, Brandon. We have the left guard center connection to the center right guard connection.
There we go.
All right, so we'll take Logan Jones there. We're up again on pick 175 here. All right, so big board.
I like Josh Cameron. I got a soft spot for. Dante Corleone's out there too.
Mm-hmm. I do, and I think sneakily, D tackle is a position because Jaron Reed is going to be potentially a guy that maybe after the season hangs it up.
Well,
maybe.
both him and Williams, you don't. Yeah, maybe on both accounts on that one. Let's scroll down just a little bit and get a little bit of a feel for what we've got value wise here. Bond, Hurley, no. No.
I think it might be that D tackle.
I've been watching Corleone for 3 years. The only thing with Corleone is just he hasn't stepped forward really as a player. It's like you could say he's had his best year of his career like 2 years ago and then just kind of flatlined a bit. But the talent is still really there. He's one of those kind of shorter, but he plays with such great leverage kind of cats out there. He's got a lot of experience. I mean, Corleone in the freaking 5th round, dude. Hard to. It's that or Cameron for me. Cameron, he's so interestingly built at like 230 plus for a wide receiver.
I thought he was a tight end when we were at Senior Bowl. I thought he was a legit tight end moving with the receiver group, and I'm like, what is going on right now?
They just don't come built like that. And on the surface of it, you'd be like, well, it's Debo. It's not Debo and how he plays, but he's got some of the hard to bring down because he's just so big kind of things. But look, Corleone's for this round in that spot, not bad at all there to be going with it. Like you said,
let's go with the D tackle,
too.
And we might be able to get Cameron coming back. Who knows?
You never know.
And the Eagles picked him. Son of a Eagles
grabbing our guys. Stop taking our stuff.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Okay, this is our last pick of the draft. So let's just recap.
Let's take a look at
Dunker, Price, Sutton, Rivers, Jones, Corleone. So we've addressed D-line a little bit in 2 spots. We've addressed O-line in 2 spots. Running back, corner. Do we look at safety and corner again and see if there's anybody in there? So Fuller's there from Toledo, who had a 30 visit with the Seahawks.
Do you like Fuller better than Wright?
I do. If I pull up Fuller stuff here, 6'2", 202. His testing, I think his arms are a little bit shorter in that 30, right? Like but again, he's explosive. He's got a good broad jump. His vertical is a little below.
Look up Colin Wrights.
Okay, let's look up Wrights here. So another guy, his processing, his hip fluidity looks good. Let's see his traits. Testing. Here you go. So again, shorter arms. He's got that 30-inch arm area. Vertical jump, height 6 foot.
Well, I think so. Let's do this. I think let's look at the safeties, and I think it's probably one of those two, if not a safety here, that stands out to us. Lorenzo style.
Everybody's in love with that, and I'm kind of like, okay. None of the safeties really are jumping off the board to me.
I think you got more potential there. Yeah, the
linebackers. Anyone?
No.
So let's see a corner here.
Wide receiver. Let's double check that too, because we lost Bobo today, man.
So Vinny Anthony is one I did like out of Wisconsin. I think can contribute on the special teams for sure. He was at Senior Bowl, a guy that was standing out to me. When you look at him, 6 foot, 190. He's got good blocking tape. That's one thing I do like about him is he is a very good blocker in the run game. He's elite as a blocker.
So I'm going to say let's go with corner to me. Okay. Let's see if we can find a way to make sure that we just double down. Nothing wrong with doubling down to me. Probably a guy that's on your practice squad anyway when it's all said and done. So it's a guy you get as a developmental kind of corner guy that I think would fit really nicely in there. I think either of those two guys makes a lot of sense.
Considering Seattle's had a visit with Fuller, and it's a top 30 visit potentially, I think that's who we go with here. All right.
I think we did pretty good. It's a meat and potatoes draft here, man.
I think we got to go again, though, without taking Dunker and see what happens at the start of it.
I'll do that, but no trade bags. We got to just straight up then. So we got, we did pretty good, though.
I'd be okay with that. We added some picks throughout. We ended up with, 7 total draft picks, so can't complain. I think, to be honest, I think a lot of these guys can help reinforce the Seahawks in a lot of positions.
Yeah, you're going to get in Dunker a guy that comes in instantly and gives you depth, a guy with high-end starting capability in the future. Jadarian Price eats up carries right out the jump. Dennis Sutton is probably more of the development guy, but you went for upside there as much as anything on that. Chandler gives you insurance for inside outside. If Eamon goes down to an injury, now you don't have to move Witherspoon into the slot. You can now just kick Chandler in there and say we're good. Logan gives you maybe your starter of the future there at center. Dante Corleone, if you can tap into that player from 2 years ago, was an impactful defensive tackle on that Cincinnati line. So it's to me a solid. There's really no spectacular draft to be had given the assets that we're working with.
No, exactly.
Do worse.
All right, let's do it one more time. We'll see if how this draft. So you want no trades at all in this one, Brandon? Just
let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. No trades. Like nobody's trading with us. Nobody wants to move. We got to pick natively. We got to free ball it.
All right, here we go. Okay. So
wait,
no
choose
trade
it fast.
Draft
Wait. Hold on. Wait.
Oh, did it not choose fast for me? Crap. I thought it rebooted. We'll just start again. All right, loading. There we go. Fast. And we'll pick Seattle. No trades. Here we go. That might actually be one of my favorite drafts I've done so far. Even though it didn't go right off the bat. Okay, so all right. So Reuben Jones, basically. Oh, I see exactly who you see on that board that you're. Is it McDonald's sitting there for you? That you're kind of excited about
I just went. Yeah, I got a little. I got a little excited seeing.
I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that.
Well, don't worry. You're not going.
That's
Dude,
not a pick.
Remember, bro. They're releasing Trent Williams. They've got Vendarian Lowe as their starting left tackle at that point.
That's true.
And the thing is with this draft is that there's going to be one of those two left tackles in the spot more deeper down because Lamu's not going early, right? True. And then you've got the other. Who's the other left tackle there in the first round that I don't think is the early guy because Spencer's right, and then Freeling. Freeling might go a little bit later as well.
All right, so who are we taking here?
I'm gonna let you pick on this one, man. I'm not a big TJ Parker. I'm not. No, I'm gonna pare it down. I'm not gonna make you fully pick. I'm not as big a TJ Parker guy. You're gonna have to sell me on him. Corner's definitely a draw here to a degree, but boy, with McDonald, I've got almost a darn near, almost close to first round grade on him for a defensive tackle. I've got to say, Colton same way though.
Here's what I'll say. Do you really think he's gonna be there at pick 32?
Yeah, potentially, because he didn't have the greatest of combine whatever to seal it. Yeah. And this is that variance we talk about too with this draft class is that I think one thing I can say for sure is I think in this draft class is that you're going to have too many tackles taken in this first round than you should. Right out the gate, that's going to push guys down. I think that we're looking at, like this thing shows here, a potential of 5 wide receivers also taken in this first round. So you start to get to when these numbers start popping up, 2 quarterbacks with Simpson and Mendoza going, right? So we start like adding these numbers together and you start feeling like somebody's getting pushed. Somebody that we think is going up is going to land in our lap at that point. And so is it likely to happen? Maybe not likely, but I mean, scroll up a little bit ahead of us. Who's the team there that's taking McDonald to you that seems like the one that stands out? Not that it's a no-brainer pick, but stands out to them. They've got 2 defensive tackles. They just put all that assets into they just put with what they gave up for Quinnen Williams.
I could see Pittsburgh doing it because Hayward may retire after this year.
They also got the kid that they took a couple of years ago, and that's one of their other guys there in that spot. So that's a maybe there. Yeah, you're right. He's definitely Detroit. The Steelers is not bad. Steelers is they've got defensive tackle. They need edge. That's why this is smart that they went that way with it because remember they just had to let go of Muhammad, the guy that had 11 sacks from last year. And they haven't, what have they done in free agency to fill that? They just had some value signing that they made $6 million that all the Lions fans started to geek out about over that's bad when they're doing that type of stuff. But he's in like even a good vet.
I'd have to say Pittsburgh's where I see I could see him going to Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh, Ravens are maybe they've got him taking Miller there. And the Ravens could also look to reinforce their depth there with what they've got with Trent Jones there right now. They could need a little bit of maybe depth there. So there's a possibility he goes ahead. With that said, I also could see there being a possibility of him falling. They've got him here on 24 on the aggregate. I mean, that's certainly within the reason at that point that guy could fall. Yeah. My vote is Caden or Colton kind of on this spot.
Ooh, I think Caden because now when I think about it with the Leo potential retire at some point and Jaron Reed, you need someone to pair with Byron Murphy. Add to his strength, best player available.
He's an ass kicker inside, man. Pure and simple. He's going to get in there and he's going to physically throw guys around.
Okay, we made our pick. Holy cow. All right. Well, Price went before it. All right. What's in the cornerback room?
Holy crap.
Holy guacamole. All right. Well, that went fast. Damn. What's in the running back room? Well, Mike Washington Jr. is still there, so I think we lean into that one here.
Because I think you're probably going to have
the runs, I think, about to start. If they went Price, I think that run's about to start.
Well, we can always come back to the Rivers option in the third round, in my opinion. So, and for the corner, I mean. And, this one makes, I think, as much sense as anything else to go this route where we're standing in this particular mock. So, yeah.
Okay. Mike Washington. Swear to God, do not take Rivers from me. Oh, Danny Dennis Sutton just went before. One pick before.
God, we could have gotten a Coleman too and taken the. All right. Well, we didn't have a corner really there. All right, corner. I'm Malik Muhammad myself here. I like him better than Rivers as more of a pure outside corner type guy to me that could work out there.
Yeah, he's 6 foot. He's a little bit taller too. Yeah, let's go Malik Muhammad. I do like his tape. I just don't expect him to be there. So we'll go with him. Okay. So
a lot of corners in this draft.
There are. Holy this is where John's going to add a pick because this is a long time to wait.
It gets dicey when you got his weight, doesn't it? Like that's why I wanted to run this exercise. Is it also kind of shows the value at times of the moving back and where there's times not to do it, times to do it.
Oh gosh. Jeremiah Wright was okay he just to me is a more athletic Anthony Bradford, really, which is saying something. Centers, there's not a lot. Tackles. Carver Willis, I like him but he'd be moving into guard. I think he's actually an interesting prospect for that.
Let's go back to defense and look at edge, corner, safety.
So Mason Rager is someone I do really like from Wisconsin at this point as a value guy. Safety. Again, not much.
I'm checking my big board here. 1 second. Yeah, I guess offensive line. TJ Hall is not a bad pick in this spot as far as value goes. But we've already kind of grabbed that. You go for a little bit more need as you get to day 3. Offensive line, if you've got a more exciting offensive lineman here, that makes some sense. Your Vinny Anthony's there as well.
Mm-hmm. I think we go Carver Willis here.
Okay. I'm good with that.
All right. So we did one with a bunch of trades and one without, and I've got a feeling we're going to like our first one a lot more.
Yeah. Worked out a little bit better on that one.
There we go. So Caden McDonald, Mike Washington, Malik Muhammad, Carver Willis. If they just stick and pick with the 4 picks.
Kind of what you're looking at. And if it's not a Caden, if you can put in Caden's the guy that slips and falls to you on the high value front. So you can throw out Caden and just think of it as like a position that's like you're not thinking about, that's one that lands in your lap, but the value is just so true. Because this guy, as Bryce had talked about a second ago, had no business falling to you. You just can't deny it. And that's what I want to do this draft is kind of the representation of this Bryce. Because the last one was a little bit more about working around the edges and kind of, diving and dipping around to try to make a go.
All right. Well, there's where our mock drafts, and we've almost been at this for 2 hours. So we'll wrap this up here pretty quickly because I know, Brandon, you've got to get out of here. So we'll get to our super chats here and get those rolling along. We've got a few from Brandon's side and a few from my side here on the Hawk side. And again, we always appreciate you guys and your super chats and supporting our shows and the Seahawks Syndicate as well. So thank you so much for that. First one up here over from your side, Brandon, is Sloby Wan Kenobi. God, I love that name. I love that name. I'm a Star Wars nut, so that's awesome for me. I love that name. Any news on Crosby this week with a $2 donation?
No, this is a little bit of letting the rubble settle in the situation of the aftermath, because right now there is the sort of the damaged good element. There is the lack of competition in the trade that you had before from a Raider perspective on this. they're literally at the spot now where we're going from the opposite, where, in my opinion, at the deadline, you should have moved him because you're going to max out the trade compensation you can get back. And now it's twisted and turned to where now they're on the other end of that, to where it's like, okay, you now have the least amount of trade compensation you can hope to get back from as it stands today right now. That can only increase over the coming days as teams, especially I think as we get into the draft, aren't able to deal with what they think they could deal with. So it's another one of those gambles from the Raiders' perspective on this. They made the mistake at the trade deadline not doing it. But I would say that this is one where it's kind of, I do expect him to be moved. I don't think he comes back. I don't think the Raiders had extra $30 million in the kitty that they were just going to, come up with out of nowhere now. Because again, it comes down to, what does that get you? All these people, I don't get all the talk with this Raiders stuff, Bryce, as far as these signings now, and then you bring back Crosby and it's a whole different team. It's like, did you guys watch that team last year? Have you watched in the last few years? They're not close. So what does that do for you by holding on to him at that point? He gets another year older. It gets another year closer with that knee blowing apart into smithereens. He's going to get moved, but you want to make sure you get a little bit more value than probably where they're sitting right now.
Yeah. So for me, I'm agreeing. So letting the Rebels settle, they're trying to figure out I think they're just trying to get their bearings. Like, that is a massive reset in some respects for an organization. You are moving off of a franchise player, and all of a sudden now he's back. Like, just the emotions and all that's going around with that, right? It's a lot. I think they're just going to let it settle, and they'll probably reopen the talks potentially closer to training camp after the draft settled and everything like that. But I agree with you. The trade deadline was where they were going to maximize their value with teams like a Seattle and so on that were trying to get their hands on Crosby. Then that's when you were going to maximize it. Now that opportunity is gone. And I will say this about the Raiders offseason, though, very much to the Cardinals in a way. I do like what the Raiders did with some of the guys they acquired. It wasn't the typical, hey, let's go get the veteran and let's massively overpay. Getting Dean and Walker and his linebackers, I think, is actually a very good move. Young linebackers that I think can play well for you. Getting some of those pieces in there, I think it was a little bit of where I think the Kubiak factor and the actual rationale of where this team is. Yes, we're spending some money. Yes, we probably overpaid for Linderbaum, but I need an elite center in my system that's going to help where I'm still missing some pieces there. It'll get me by for now, is basically how I look at it. And I think you're right. They're just letting it kind of settle down for a bit on Crosby. But thank you for the donation there, Kenobi. We've got from your side over there, Brandon, Feed Me More Seahawks with a $2 donation. Comes in with, Torrey was a top run blocker before he got hurt too. Yeah, Torrey Horton was a very good run blocker in the run game. I will not argue that at all.
Yeah, he's a good player, and we still got a lot of hopeful upside for him. So hopefully that leg gets bet. But I saw the same thing. He was very, very good as a run blocker last year.
He was. We've got one here from Dennis. Comes in with, here, Kitty, and it's Kitty. Yeah, I did see that. Pumpkin did make an appearance at one point.
She did. She's got to come in, and she knows she's the star of the show at times. So she's got to come in and do her little strut,
Let everyone know she's here. She is actually, I'll tell everybody, she is the true mastermind behind the syndicate. We just haven't let you all believe that yet. She runs the roost. Brian Myers here comes in with one saying, love seeing Anthony Hill on the list. One of my dream ads. I think going back to our top list, and Brandon, your favorites over there had Anthony Hill on that group.
Very, very close to almost putting a first round grade on him, man. He's 20 years old. He's just going to be turning 21. And this is a little bit of when we go to talking about guys like Jason Kilgore. You can't understate this, that you have these guys playing at big time college programs at 19, 20 years old, and they're holding up. Say nothing about are they dominating, or are they going out there and they're lighting, they're being a star, they're giving you flat. Like, this guy's holding up against grown ass men in the toughest conference in football. And there's something in that in itself when you look at it as far as how good they are, how good they will be, how much hopeful upside I think you can hope to see in these kind of players, especially a guy like Kilgore that's been moved all over the place. But Hill's that way for me. It's just, you don't find these linebackers anymore 235 pure. They're all 220. They're all sub 6 feet tall. They all don't have very much length. And in this guy, you've got the kind of the full meal deal package.
I agree. And I think that's one of those things that you got to look at when, to your point, when you're adding value, and this will test John. If he's the highest graded guy on your board in round 1 and he's there at pick 32, are you taking him there?
I mean, that's where this is that tough test of the value-based system, because the value-based system sounds good on paper, bro. But when you get to that pick and that little bit of sweat's trickling down your side and you're like, but I've got this position already. Like, but what am I going to do with them? What are we going to play base 4-3? Like, are we going to a pure 3-4 looks now? It starts getting tough about making that thing, but it's like, that's why so few teams actually are able to do it, is that teams always end up drifting back into that need structure of things.
Agreed. We've got Stony Baker here. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up for Brandon and Bryce. Thank you for that. Yeah, if you guys haven't already, both of us are streaming this to our channel. So if you're on either side of the Hawk's Eye or the Hawk's Nest, make sure you click that notification button, subscribe, like the channel, like the shows. It doesn't cost you guys anything. It helps us out a great deal. And also make sure you got those notifications clicked for when we do have our Seahawks Syndicate shows, as those include Dan Viens as well from Seahawks Forever, and the librarian of all things football knowledge and Seahawks knowledge, Mookie Alexander.
The grand librarian.
Exactly. He's the grand master when it comes to that stuff there, Brandon, from field goals. Mookie's an awesome addition on our stat. And actually, I think in some respects is our check of facts. If we're ever unsure, it's always throw it out there into the Ethos and let's see if Mookie's going to tell us if we're wrong or we're right on those things. So
right. Some people use ChatGPT. We use Mookie.
We use Mookie, exactly. He is our check system there. But Shane Turner in here, thank you. Shane Turner. Thanks, Shane, from Down Under. Love the show. How's the Apple Podcasts coming, mate? Yes, it's hit a bit of a snag there, Shane, but I am working on it. I'm hoping to have that resolved here in the near future. But thank you for the $3 donation there, Shane. Appreciate it. That's the one thing that's always a pain, Brandon, is just trying to sync up all these different platforms to take our stuff. So it is a pain.
I'm bad about the audio.
Oh, since I've gone to full live, I've been a bit better with it, but trying to get it on the right platforms is a bit of a pain. We got Misfit here. Goes, why is a third corner such a big topic this offseason?
I think it's because the fact that you've had to go to it. It's a little bit like the running back depth, where you can look at the frontline starters running backs, but season in and season out over a 10-year period, you have tended to call upon your third and fourth running back in your rotation and need to give them fairly good number of touches or opportunities where they've got to come in and step in and actually perform, not just kind of get by. And when you look at the cornerback room as it stands right now, you're going to be living in nickel. So you're not living with a lot of base looks with just two cornerbacks on the field. You're going to be living more often than not with three cornerbacks on the field, which means more opportunities for injuries because there's more snaps on the field, meaning more need for depth because of it.
Yeah, and you saw the flexibility it also gives Mike too in a lot of ways with the rotations and the sub packages, the different things he can do with it. It does cause problems for defenses or offenses as well playing our defense. So I think that's why it's such a big topic. And realistically, I think it'll come up with one of the other super chats here. We'll talk about it in a second, but we got one here from Industry Worth over on the Hawks Nest side of things for $2. Goes, hi Bryce, B&B. Yeah, I guess this is another B&B show in a way.
I know.
One of us will change our names. That's the way to work. And since I'm the understatesman here to the Seahawks content creating, I will change mine if I have to, so we don't get any trademark infringement with Brandon Nelson over there and his awesome show as well. What do we got here? Industry comes back with another $5 donation. Thank you. Industry goes, what are you guys having for dinners? Burgers and root beer. Does Bryce have cats too? I do not have cats. My wife actually has pet crows that she's kind of quasi adopted. So we have those, but we don't have a pet cat. I will say crows pretty much keep to themselves. You feed them and let them hang out on your deck and you can go sit out there and they'll be fine. But yeah, nice. For dinner tonight, I don't know what I'm having for dinner because the wife usually tells me. I have no idea. What about you, Brandon?
I already did. I did a burger and fries for the show, so I'm filled up. Did the crows let you pet them?
So we had someone. We were living in downtown Vancouver. Its name was Harriet, and yes, Harriet would let you actually touch her. She'd actually fly into the house that we were in and sit on the couch.
Oh, there we go.
And so she was kind of cool. So Harriet has the new crows that we've adopted at our new place aren't that friendly yet, but they'll hang out on the deck with us and stuff. And if we have anything really good to eat, they sometimes will come and eat out of your hand. So, yeah, no. Nice. So outside of that, we got another one here from Industry, another $2 donation. Churro fun from Cammie and Evie.
It's a in joke, in joke about the
Gotcha.
Cats.
Appreciate
Thank
that,
you,
industry.
industry.
All right. We got one here from Seahawks Daddy. Still think that's one of the best names out there right now in the YouTube verse. Goes, can we make this offseason last an extra month, please? I'm the opposite. Like, get me through the draft and let me then enjoy that like down period. And then I can't wait for training camp to come back around and actually defend our title, because it's kind of the fun fact of winning it now. We get to defend it.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. There's definitely a little bit of, once you get through all the content as far as free agency, draft, finishes everything off, you kind of like, hey, let me catch my breath. But by the time you get into early July, you're tapping your toe and you're like, all right, we don't have training camp yet here. Let's go.
And here's another good one. This ties into what we were talking about with that third corner. Addicted to Hawks goes, how do you think Mike will implement Pritchett this coming season? Sorry, it was Gunny that came in with that question.
I think that Pritchett's taken some real steps forward in his coverage. I think coverage ability was always something that he showed a really good ability to do out of Auburn. He is a guy that can do the variety of things you want to see from corners on the outside in the scheme. The big question comes down to, and the one that I don't think that we've been answered yet, is whether or not he's going to hold up as a tackler. It's the thing that showed up on his tape in Auburn that was problematic, and it still has been a bit of a problematic issue at times here when he's been on the field as an outside corner. So didn't show up as much last year, but again, didn't have as much run last year for it to show up as much. So he's got to be able to be better as a tackler than what he's been in the past to be able to hold up there as a true blue starter.
Agreed. And we got another super chat here from the Hawks Nest side. It's Sandman with a $2 donation. Did you see we picked up JSN and Spoon's 5th year? Yes, we did, Sandman. We did talk about it a bit. It was an expected move for this franchise, and we expect them to get their long-term deals done in the summer.
Yeah, you're going to end up extending these guys off, and then the structure of this could look like so many different things. From you have things guaranteed down the line, and you don't have to increase the numbers, to you increase the numbers a little bit because you put the bonus on the front end of this, option bonus down the line, void your money down the line. There's so many different things that they could do mechanically to put this deal together, however John wants to do so. But you want to keep the leverage with the fifth year option at all times. You don't want to be going through a final year and being like, okay, is there going to be a franchise tag for one of these two? Or God forbid, you got both of them coming at the same point in time. Yeah. So this helps push negotiations along, I think, when you have this sitting there on the books.
I would tend to agree with you on that one. We got one here again from Seahawks Daddy. Goes, Niners A+ for when we giving they kept Shanahan and Lynn straight moves. I got a feeling if it doesn't go well, one of them is not there next year.
Very possible. I don't know about that owner being all in on like you guys are being held to this standard. I think like there's a bit of me that wonders if they're just happy of being like competitive and winning every year at this point, as long as he's not paying through the nose.
True.
And because they've dialed back some of the money, I mean, he's not paying necessarily through the nose as much as they were with that. So I don't think they're going to be purely bad. I don't think they're going to be necessarily dynamic or elite, but they won't be purely bad either. So.
We got another one here from Seahawks. He goes, Coach Coutts brought the strong hat game. Yes, this is, again, another edition picked out by my wife. She is the queen of the hat game. She is the one that picks all of my hats out and purchases them for me. So I have no say. So whatever all your compliments you guys pay to the hats, it all goes towards my wife. She is the best at doing that, even though she is a Raiders fan. So that's a little disheartening sometimes. Industry back with B&B Show 2.
And an angry Raiders fan, by the way, at times.
Oh, man. She's a knowledgeable, angry Raiders fan, though. Like, my gosh. Like, just when, she was, I'll tell you all this. She was not happy about the Pete Carroll, Geno Smith situation. And, man, when that news broke that they were going to be moving on, she was quite happy down in Mobile about that.
It was fun needling her about Mendoza, though.
Oh, God. You were better at it than most. I'll give you that, Brandon. You were better at it than most. What do we got here? We got another $2 donation over from the Hawks Nest side of things. Samuel Carlson in here picked up the 5th year on JSN Spoon extensions incoming. Yes, there will be extensions incoming.
Yeah, and I remember this was the big thing with the DK Metcalf situation as well, was were we going to go to 5 years and pay him that kind of money that the Steelers did? Maybe not. But the big thing and reason that you ended up moving DK was about the timeline of it. DK wanted to be paid at the start of the offseason. John's going, well, that's not when we do the timeline of this stuff. There's an order of priority at play. I got to get this done, this done, this done, and then I will get to this. So it's just an order of priority. It's not a matter of that they're not going to do it. It's just that there's other things you got to get accomplished. And especially with them having a reduced offseason because of the Super Bowl, you got to really all that much more urgently get onto some of this other stuff. But they will get around to it.
Yeah, they will. They're both of them are priority guys and key guys in their foundation of what they're building. I think we've kind of come to that. We got Jeffrey in here with $2. Why is Price falling out of the first? Bad testing. No, I think it's just he's getting pushed down because teams are going with other needs ahead of that. Would you say that's something similar, Brandon?
It's hard for running backs to get into the first round. I mean, that's just the pure and simple bottom line of it, is that if you're going to be in the first round, you've got to be kind of bulletproof in what you're bringing to play. And I think that the testing in itself is not the only thing. And some of this comes to just what he is as a running back and what kind of systems he works best with. It's a factor when you're running a 1-6, 10-yard split. This is pretty far away from what a lot of schemes want to see from the running back position, where everything gets caught up on the 40. But as me and Bryce have talked about in this show, it really is more for this position about burst. I mean, you could say speed's more of a receiver kind of thing. And even receivers, burst is almost equal to the speed factors, its importance there too. So it's the burst part that he doesn't quite have. And the problem there comes into it. It's a thing that doesn't sync up. You don't have the burst, then you got to be a hammer. You're not a hammer, then you got to have the burst. He's not a hammer and he doesn't got the burst. So it kind of like, he's a big back and he runs with physicality. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's like a soft Sally out there, but it's not on tape like, whoa, he's laying the thunder out there. You don't get that either. He's more of a big play kind of back, a little bit in how he runs.
Agreed. Thank you for the donation there, Jeffrey. We've got Russo in here. Vin Russo goes, Cable is the next Seahawk guard. In this combine, he would have had some of the best numbers of all linemen. I think he's still a year away. You're talking about a guy that's fully converted to guard this past season. I think he's going to need another year. I think he's probably going to be your direct backup again. But I think he's a potentially another year away from really competing for starting reps.
Yeah, I'm open to it though, Vin. That's the nice beauty part of it. You let him have the development of the offseason. Sundell was a guy that Mike Vidal talked about as being their highest graded performer of the offseason and hitting marks and progressing himself as a player. And then we saw that on the field. So no reason that a guy like Cable might not be able to do that as well. But like Bryce is saying, he is also making a positional change to something that he didn't have a track record of playing in at college.
Industry comes in with a $2 donation. People in the chat can't read the names because they're too small. Apologize for that with the mock draft there, guys.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be a bit of a pain.
I meant to mention that too. Like what I do on that too, Bryce, is I do the you can do the increase size on your
gotcha.
On the if you do it on your browser and you hit the plus on the size, it'll increase. I forgot though. That was my bad too. So
all right. Well, we've got another one here. We got Gunny coming in with a $5 donation over on your side, Brandon. Hey, y'all, do you think Pritchett will have more snaps this upcoming season? He has moments where he plays top tier. Well, we kind of talked about it a second ago, Gunny, but me and Brandon both think that Pritchett is going to probably see more opportunities. His tackling is where the improvement will really need to come if he's going to stay on the field as a run defender off the corner spot.
Yeah, he's got everything you want as far as, and he did this back to college, press, off coverage, man, zone. All that stuff can be wrapped up. What he does as a cover guy, what you want a cornerback to most do as a skill set, he does. He can make a play on the ball, gets his head turned around, but there was that gaping hole at times on tape with him and him and his partner both on tape out of Auburn. The kid we took in the 6th round or something, the other kid we took, both of them had this problem where they just didn't look interested in tackling.
What was it? It was James. James was the guy that we took.
DJ James.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and they both of them were just uninterested in tackling on tape. They weren't getting off blocks. They had horrible form. You could see that it just wasn't really interesting to them to do it. And this is this is a corner thing. Bryce can speak to this. I'm sure he's seen it on the football field. Some of these guys just it's like receivers playing corners. Like they just don't want to do it. It's like, I'll do it if you force me, but it's like forcing a child to eat his vegetables. And there's guys that'll go out there and they'll be like, no, I'm willing to go do it. The 4 stack guys that we talked about in the 2nd round that we could take, or the 1st round that we could take, from the Colton Hoods to the Ceesays to the Johnson, like all of those guys are not only good form tacklers, willing tacklers, and guys that are willing to get off blocks. But this is where with Pritchett, it's like, I got to see it with him first. I think he could do it. He's got the physicality to do it. It's not that he's like a mighty might out there, but it's about will, and it's about improving that part of your game that is just the one thing holding you back, essentially, from being a starter in this league.
Yeah, and to be honest, as a coach, even as a quarterback when I played, when you play against a corner that can cover and come up and wants to be involved in the run game, it's a bit of a matchup nightmare because you're thinking, okay, hey, we can take advantage. He's going to bail out. He's going to get to his zone because all he wants to do is cover. So we'll run it that side of the field, especially if you can get him into the boundary and doing that to him. But when you get a guy that wants to come up and he wants to be physical, it changes how you game plan things because you're like, okay, there's not really a weakness that shows up that we can easily take advantage of. We have to scheme it more in a lot of ways. So, no, I agree with
What makes
everything you just said
Spoon
there.
maybe the best corner in the sport right now overall because of that.
Totally agree with you there. We got Martin Lawrence in here from the Hawks Nest with a £5 donation. I'm pretty sure that's pounds there. I see Sundell as the long-term starting center playing alongside Zabel. Outside of possible right guard, our O-line is set for the next 2 to 3 years.
Very
It's
possible.
It's very possible. Well, you got to remember Bradford's on the last year of his deal. So whether or not they extend him or not will be the tell if that'll be this O-line being set. I'm not 100% set on the fact that Bradford is a 2 to 3 year starter in Seattle from this point on. I think it makes sense to, again, bring him back this year on whatever the rest of his deal is. But I think he's the type of player with such up and down film. Yes, there's been positive strides. Yes, it's gotten more consistent in the positive realm. I think he's a guy that even if he hits free agency next year, may not get overly paid, that you may be able to get back potentially if you're not certain on what it is. Or you don't draft somebody, you can reach a 2-year deal with him probably at some point in the season.
I would be surprised on Bradford getting an extension. And Sundell, I think it's possible that this is a part of the long-term plan. I do come back to looking at John, and I think how he's kind of playing certain things is I think there's some recognition, part of the evolving process of I do have to load balance things, as I like to say to it. So why don't you want to pay Kobe Bryant the pay that you're paying the Bears rate and match that, even though you're willing to pay him? Well, because you have Love making the money he's making, and you got to counterbalance the other safety position in a certain spot. Why are you willing to go to Drake Thomas on kind of the lower end 2-year deal rather than pay high to the other side? Because you're paying Ernest Jones to the other side. So when it comes to this offensive line, you're now paying top money for your left tackle. You're now paying top money for your right tackle. You're going to be paying top money for your left guard here within 2 years. So does that then mean that then the center and the right guard are going to have to be a little bit of the lesser investment put within them? That there's going to have to be a rookie contract somewhere. It's like the receiving core. You're paying everybody on the receiving core. You want to build up your defense. It's like, it's not fun to think about this type of stuff, but it's the reality of it. And that you have to think in the roster building of where can I go light as much as where can I go strong. We all want to think about how we top it off and how we keep adding and we keep adding, but we also got to be realistic about the fact that there is a finite amount of resources and I have to divvy those up properly. And there's going to have to be some positions I look to that I say, I can't afford to pay you, not as much because the cost isn't right or you're not worth it, but because of the fact that I got to balance this load properly to make sure I'm building the best possible team at the end of the day and not being restricted in what I can do because I've tried to go that other route.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's where it's going to be interesting to see what Seattle does with their O-line, especially in those two spots over the next couple of years. Got a couple super stickers here from Industry Worth. Went a little crazy here. Appreciate it.
Let's go, Industry.
Got a $2 super sticker. We've got a $5 super sticker. We've got another $2 super sticker and another $2 super sticker. Thank you so much, Industry.
You're awesome,
Appreciate
Industry
that.
Worth. Appreciate you.
So much.
Thank you so much.
And we got a $10 donation from the Hawks Nest side of things with Jeffrey here going, Rams better hope Stat Pat Ferd plays like an MVP again and stays healthy. I see how replacement for them coming unless they luck into the Manning boy. I'd lose it. Yes, pour one out for poor Gino, lowly jet. Oh, man. I think Gino might be okay in like he will be better than his first iteration in New York, but that's not saying much because it's not a high bar to climb over.
It's a division that's got some opening to it too as well. I mean, the Patriots are going to play a hellacious schedule. The Bills have been less than their strongest recently, and his expectation, unlike going to the Raiders last year, where everybody, the second the Raiders made the move, were like, "Oh, expectation now, Gino, expectations." Like everyone forgot that it was the Raiders, and suddenly because Gino was going there, that he was going to magically solve everything. It's like that's not the way that works. So I think I like him going there, at least from that standpoint, to your point of like, he's got some reasonable talent there. There's more there on the offensive side of the ball than there was there his first stop, to the point as well. Like he's got way more in the kitty than he did before. So I don't hate it there for him. I liked Minnesota so much better. And I kind of don't understand. I think what I understand about this is the Raiders didn't release him. So the contract still stayed on the books and the Jets were like, well, we'll take it. But boy, that was one where it's like, I really want to see him go to Minnesota and have a true opportunity there where if he gets instilled there, I think he has a chance to still kind of shine and do something on that team.
I agree. I think he would have been a better fit too for what Kevin O'Connell wants to do in that offense than Kyler Murray, because you kind of have seen Kyler try and succeed in that type of an offense a little bit with the
Cardinals. You buying that, by the way? Yeah, you buying that? Everybody's trying to say that he's going to come in there and light up. I'm not seeing that math at all.
Because again, it's the same problem I think JJ McCarthy had, which Sam is good at, and why it's such I think in the long run, a dumb move that they moved off of Sam was Sam can throw the intermediate in breaking routes, and JJ doesn't like to throw those. And Kyler couldn't throw those because if he could, he'd still be in Arizona throwing to Marvin Harrison, because that's what Marvin Harrison coming into the NFL was known for, was his in breaking routes. He was a great intermediate in breaking route receiver, and they couldn't hit him. It was fade ball. Okay, that's not his strength of his game. Yes, he's a good athlete, but you need to set those up by throwing it inside. Kyler couldn't throw it inside. So what? He's all of a sudden going to grow 4 inches and be able to throw inside? It's not going to happen. And there's no run game there to even offset that at all. I don't understand it. Like I got a feeling they're going to trade JJ McCarthy. He's going to go somewhere else and he'll somehow be serviceable. I think there's still an opportunity. He's still young enough. He's going to go somewhere else and be serviceable. I think Carson Wentz ends up being the starting quarterback at some point for that team again this year. As bad as that sounds, I think that's what we're looking at. But we got another $2 donation here from Jeffrey. He goes, proud of our O-line play this year. Big improvements. 100%. Reason they won the Super Bowl. 100%. I'd say it's one of the top 3 reasons this team won the Super Bowl, if not in the top 2 of those top 3 reasons, is the fact this O-line was so improved.
They really were, and it's part of why the Walker loss just doesn't hurt me as much as it's hurting other Hawk fans, is I just think that a big part of the running game taking steps forward had to do with the fact that it was the collective understanding the system and understanding the timing of it, and it getting down to kind of the nth degree by the end of the year, as you'd kind of expect as you go through and learn a new system, is that the ins and the outs, the finer tuned details get refined the later into the season you get, and you should only see better returns as you get into year 2 of that from a continuity standpoint, especially with all 5 offensive linemen returning.
Agreed. So with that being said, Brandon, that wraps up today's show. Let everyone know where they can find more of your content. And if you guys haven't subbed up, get over to the Hawks Nest and sub up to Brandon. You're missing out.
That's where you can find me. I'm the Hawks Nest here on the YouTube side of it. Seahawks Nester on Twitter. If you want to follow me over there, though I'm not super active on Twitter, but that's where you can find me rocking it.
Appreciate you, Brandon. I think we'll probably have a Seahawks syndicate coming up here shortly. And again, everyone, we went a little longer than we normally do, but that's because we had Brandon. We did a couple mock drafts. There was a lot that we ended
These guys say just because of Brandon, and they'd be like, "Yeah, we know what you mean." Enough said, Bryce. Enough said.
Exactly. You're the king, man. You're the 5-hour long go forever, and like somehow I don't know how you have the energy for it some nights, but yeah. So I'll be back next week, probably around Wednesday, with another show. I'll be having Curtis Allen come back on the show and join me. We're going to break down, obviously, what JSN and Devin Witherspoon just had occur today with the 5th-year options and some other stuff related to the cap, because Curtis is one of the best out there for that. But other than that, everyone, as always, stay loud.
Let me also put a note. If you guys aren't subbed up to Bryce here, Hawks Eye, if you're on my side, he's the Hawks Eye here on YouTube. So do please as well. Get subbed up here, part of the syndicate as well, and all that good stuff. So if you're not subbed up, please do that too.
Appreciate it, Brandon. And as always, everyone, stay loud, be proud, and go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Have a good night.